meeting when I find out when he gets here. But Ophelia's going to do the first presentation. So are we recording now? Yes, we are. Thank you. All right. So welcome everybody. Today is January 4th, 2024, and it is the Battery Park City Committee meeting of Community Board 1. My name is Justine Kucha, and excuse me, I am appearing remotely. Not feeling well today. But I want to welcome everyone to the meeting and just remind folks the way this is going to work is through Robert's rules, which means that I'm going to recognize people to speak. We're going to have our board members speak first, people in the room first, and I'm going to ask Jeff and Zach to kind of tell me in the room because it's hard to see online who's raising their hand and who isn't. And then, of course, we will get to the people in the community. So everybody who's an attendee, you are not going to be ignored. You're just going to be waiting and go, I don't want to say second, but second, basically. And Jack, if you from C Streak are online now, if you just raise your hand, if you're on the phone, I believe someone help me. I think raising your hand is *6 on the phone. If you're on an iPhone,
Star three. Yes.
*3 raises your hand and *6 unmutes you. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So raise your hand so we know how to find you. Because I don't see a Jack yet. Hey, Marianne.
Hello.
All right, so I think we can get going. Our first order of business is having a presentation from Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and New York Waterways, but Port Authority is going to go first, and we'll have New York Waterways and representative from C Street, who are all users of the docks there at the Brookfield Terminal. So, Ophelia, I kick it to you.
Thanks, Justine. Happy New Year to all. I hope each of you had a wonderful holiday season. My name is Ophelia Rivas, and I'm the new General Manager for Government Community Relations at the Port Authority. Tonight, I'm joined by fellow Port Authority staff and representatives from New York Waterway and C Streak, who will have the opportunity to introduce themselves shortly. We're delighted to be here and connect with the community. New York, and just for your awareness, New York Waterway plans to provide a historical overview, share some stats on private charters, and discuss conditions for private charters, including concerns related to noise and vibration. We value this opportunity to engage with you and look forward to a productive discussion. And we're happy to be here with the community tonight. And with that, I pass it to Libby from Port Authority.
Hi, everyone. My name is Libby Shaflita. I'm Transportation Planning Manager with the Port Department at the Port Authority, and I manage the Port Authority's ferry program. I will pass it to Donald, if you're ready.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you. Nice to see you all again. We're joining you this evening, I think, to address some of your concerns and just answer some questions about the requests that we get for, let's call it non-scheduled operations at Battery Park City or Brookfield Ferry Terminal. And, just for the sake of this evening, let's get some definitions on the table that we do not do tours out of the Brookfield Terminal. They haven't operated out of there for several years. We do get requests for transports, which, could be from Brookfield to Brooklyn or Brookfield to Liberty State Park or something of that nature. I don't know who's going to bring up the presentation, but if you'd like to do that, that we have some numbers in there.
Yeah, and before we go into the presentation, I don't know if Jack has joined us.
I'm trying to reach him. I sent him a text. He said he's trying to get on. He said he's having difficulty getting on, but he's got the information, so he's continuing to try.
Okay.
So
When he comes, he's going to enter like as you guys do, as an attendee, and then once we see him and he raises his hand, we can unless I see Jack, we'll put him over.
Yeah, not yet. I don't see his numbers.
Yeah, I don't see it yet either. All right, Brookfield Ferry Terminal operations. I'm putting myself back on mute because I don't want to echo.
So we've spent several meetings and emails back and forth about requests that we get for transports and excursions. And I'll define an excursion here as a charter, and that means there's a boat that's been chartered to come in and pick up a party. When I say party, a group at Brookfield, and either take them to another destination or take them out on the water and bring them back. More often than not, those groups are tenants of the adjacent office buildings or somebody that's going out for an event. More often than not, it's a wedding. They might be staying at the Conrad. The reason that, these operators come to Brookfield is that it's convenient for the people who are chartering the boat, in that they normally either walk to get on the boat, or they are staying at the nearby hotels. If we can just flip to the next slide, that would be useful. All right, so what I tried to show in this slide is that the large blue bars indicate the number of operating days in any given year. So we operate about 363 or 364 days a year. Our operation, New York Waterway, isn't 364 days, but with Citywide and the other operators, there's generally somebody coming in and out of that terminal almost every day of the year. On any given day, there's at least 200 departures from Brookfield. I mean, if you do the math, you're in the neighborhood of, multiple thousands on an annual basis. The smaller bars, and I took the post-COVID, the smaller bars show in the number of requests or number of days, frankly, that we get requests for excursions or charters or transports. If you could flip to the next slide, I think it'll show you. So I did this for 3 years, 2021, 2022, and 2023. So in 2021, we had 24 days where we had requests for something other than a scheduled operation. I highlighted in yellow what are considered excursions, and then the white is obviously transports. And a transport is, again, something as simple as a boat departing Brookfield, going to, more often than not, it might be Brooklyn or Jersey City, or sometimes even Staten Island for that matter. So you'll see that out of 364 days when the terminal was operating in 2021, we had 24 days where something other than a non-scheduled vessel left the facility. If you can flip to the next. Same parameters, but in 2022, we had 26 days. They were equally distributed between excursions and transports. Just a little bit about excursions. Most of these boats generally carry about 150 people. And I want to be very clear. These are not party boats. We're not in the party boat business. I mean, we manage the facility. As the New York City waterfront has developed and there's been more parks and more development, locations for people to operate for the marine industry as a whole. I mean, I'm a ferry operator and we happen to manage Brookfield, but I'm also an advocate for the industry. And I just bear that in mind, because when I talk about the difficulties that people have in securing locations for pickup, that's why they come to Brookfield. People do go out of North Cove. I mean, I can't speak to the operations at North Cove, but I know for a period of time there was actually a small tour operation going out of North Cove. So in 2022, we had 26 days equally distributed. And if you flip to the next, it's the most recent year, 2023. We had 30 days, but fewer excursions and more transports. You might recall that we had a PGA event, so that accounts for several of those days. I mean, in the end, when I did the total of departures, it's about 0.1% of the activity at Brookfield is committed to excursions or non-regular scheduled service. We can flip to the next Might be a little bit difficult for you to read, but we have a series of guidelines that we have in any permit that any operator who comes to Brookfield must agree to. In these general guidelines, if you saw our permit, they've probably been in there since 2010. I revised them recently in December of 23, circulated that document for people to see. And really what we did was add the next page, if you will. So the next page speaks specifically to excursions and charter operations. And I think these are the rules that people should follow. Very clear that there's no on-street or online ticket sales. And the reason we have that in there is you can't open up this charter to the general public. It has to be a group that you know. So if it's American Express and they're bringing 100 people down there, they can't be out there selling tickets to the general public to board this boat. The playing of music and announcements, I think we've set a distance from the terminal where it should not occur. I think we've spoken about that several times. The vessel operators must confirm that the charterers, event organizers, and potential passengers are instructed that all vehicular pickup and drop-off, bus for hire vehicles occurs at the end of Liberty Street. I know we've done at least one transport since we spoke about this. I don't think there was any problems. I don't think, and really, when you look at the 70 or so days that we've really had any complaints about the excursions or transports. Vessel operators must present a crowd control plan that includes at least one staff member for 100 passengers dedicated to managing passenger queuing and boarding. Understand that's the vessel operator staff. We also have our own staff at the terminal that directs people to the right boats. Bear in mind that, in an evening, in the peak hour, you could have 1,000 people move through this terminal. Again, these boats are typically, certainly on the excursions, which seem to be the most concerning, or typically about 150 or 200 people. Item 5, all excursions and charter operations are considered a single occurrence or one-time limited event. So you get this permit, you do your business, it doesn't give you the right to come back. You only get one chance per permit. All excursions and charter operators must occur within normal terminal operating hours unless otherwise approved. I think this one is where, we would look for some direction if an operator comes to us and says, I want to come back at 12:30 as opposed to 11:30. Terminal during the week is typically open those hours. So we propose to include these in any permit, to monitor them closely. We have similar guidelines in 10 other locations that we manage for the public. Our goal here is to make the facility available for reputable operators, not party boats, not tour boats, but to give the marine industry a place where they can pick up as needed, not a regular scheduled service. But also to do this in a manner that that it's being done well, that we don't have to spend an hour or many emails trying to approve this. We should agree in principle that if they meet these, fine. They should be able to proceed. We could say if it's over a certain number of passengers, we need to kick this back to the community for further approval. This is really, the extent of my conversation here tonight. I've been one way or another coming to this board since probably 1989. So I'm very familiar with your concerns. I'm happy to address them. I think Jack may have joined us. I see a Jack. But so from my perspective, I want to make this a smooth and transparent decision-making process that you can be confident that you're not going to be disturbed But, I shouldn't have to burden you with a dozen different emails, for basically a 15-minute operation twice in an evening. But, you might have a different point of view.
And just to
actually.
jump in there, Donald, if I may, essentially today we would like to open up the discussion. That's why Donald presented some guidelines for operations, but essentially we would like to create a checklist, so to speak, for private charters so that we could streamline the process. And so once we work with Waterway, BPCA, the community board, we have that checklist in place, and so that we all know what's expected, the standards, and there won't have to be this last minute fire drill or emails. So we're just trying to streamline the process and make it more efficient. So we plan to take any feedback, listen, and then work with a smaller stakeholder group, including the community board, so that we can all come to a resolution and agree on the checklist, so to speak.
Yeah, no, thank you both so much. Donald, thank you for this presentation and for coming, and thank you for the many years of coming before this board and hearing our concerns. I really appreciate the summary of the the list of requirements for each permit, which is wonderful. And the Battery Park City Brookfield Terminal specific concerns, which talk about the parking and all that, which is a very important thing to us because it matters to us. As we learned in our last set of conversations, what goes on the land is just as important to us as the water, because we are just it's a residential community.
Sure.
But I thank you again because you've come to us every time and asked us. To date, would you say there are about 70 over 3 years that they've been excursions or transport that have been outside of the
Yeah,
usual
maybe.
operations?
Maybe 80 over 3 years. Let's call it 80.
Okay. I have not heard a complaint specific to the excursions. That doesn't mean there aren't any, and that is why I'm so happy that you're here before us, so that we can hear from the folks in the community as well. So I'm going to open this up to our board first. And Zach and Jeff, I'm going to ask you to first call on people in the room about it if anybody has anything to say. And then I see that Brian, as an attendee, has his hand raised. But first, let's do the room. But from my perspective, I feel like we've vetted this and we've had no concerns. So, yeah, if we can keep it to around, it's 25 to 30 a year, and Jay also has his hand raised as the attendee. From my perspective, 25 to 30 a year is not that bad. It's not that much of a burden. And again, if no complaints for these specific boats, that's great. Yeah, I call them boats. Sorry if that's not right. Vessels.
Sure.
But anyway, in the room, anybody have anything to say?
Betty has her hand up.
Betty, go ahead, please.
I think the real issue here is that I'm not anticipating problems either. But the question is, what happens when there are complaints? And it's nice if everyone starts with a clean slate, and even if they've had complaints in the past, but there are some vessels that are not terribly desirable, and I can't say that they are necessarily the ones we're talking about now.
I think that's the distinction here is that, and I'm not dismissing what you're saying, because I think we've got two issues.
Let Don answer and Libby and let us know what the process is. If there are concerns and complaints, what does that look like? How is it handled? And what information is public facing for that?
Specific to the charters and the excursions?
Yeah, let me start by saying when somebody comes to us and asks for permission to dock, we generally screen the operator. We know who they are. They tell us who their client is, so that there's no shenanigans where they're doing a promo or a production. Generally, these are corporate charters, and they tell us where the people are coming from. If they don't adhere, that's the last time they'll be docking there. Doesn't solve the problem that you had that evening, but we won't let them back into the facility. And I can't stress enough how difficult it is to find a place for these, and I call them high-end operators, because this is generally the Atlantis, a guy by the name of Freddie Artolino. It's been operating in New York Harbor for over 30 years. And people are paying, you know, if it's a wedding, it's $250, $300, $350 a head. So it's not the kind of operation that you get the booming music that's going past your buildings at 2 o'clock in the morning. This isn't that type of operation, but I can tell you this much. If there's a problem, they won't be back.
But Don, how do you know please outline between you and Libby the proper process that what Betty asked. Where can a member of the public file a complaint that will reach to you to know when there is, or if ever there is an issue?
Well, they can come to us directly. I mean, I can provide a contact number and an email address, and you guys can get to us directly with any complaints. I got a feeling that most of you have my email address anyway, because I get a lot of complaints, but generally not with excursions. But they can come right to me. I'm always happy to address that complaint. You know that, and you know that I take action.
And to the complaints I'm talking about that I'm used to seeing in Battery Park City residents is more about the equipment than the people on the vessel.
It's more about, I'm sorry, you're not coming in clearly. If somebody could repeat her comment.
More about the
The
equipment.
pollution and the noise and vibrations of the ferry itself, not the people.
It's more
I
about
still can't hear, but go ahead.
Right.
John, what she's saying is it's about the particular vessel and the vibrations, the noise, and the impact that the particular vessel has above and beyond the human impact. It's more about the vessel impact.
You know, most of these boats that come into the side loaders, they tie up when they come in. So they're actually running at a very low RPM. So their vibrations and the noise associated with that operation is very different from the commuter boats that go in on the north and south side. Most of the excursion boats are side loaders. So I don't think the vibration and noise issue is as great as it is with frankly, it's probably greater with the commuter operations than it would be with the excursions, and I'm happy to talk about those issues as well. But
Other questions in the room?
Well, I guess that was a distinction that I wanted to make is I do want to talk about the other things, and I'm really happy that Jack from C Streak is here to talk about some of the other issues. But specific to this, I would like to first make sure if there's been any complaints, I'd like to know about them. And then I'd like to have people ask questions and make it clear if they're talking about the excursions or the regular operations. Just for clarity, not for anything else. It's not like we're cutting conversations. Go ahead, Tammy.
I have two things. One, Don, certainly, yes, we have your email, but I'd like it to be public facing somewhere if that's possible, whether it's on the waterways site, someplace that says, you know, questions, comments, and concerns, that there's a line, someplace that's published so we can direct people if they're looking. That I think would be really helpful for public engagement or, you know.
I can give you, let me just respond to that quickly before your next one. We can give you our customer service contacts, our social media contacts. You can reach us through those. But look, I'm happy, you know, to give my email and my phone number out so people can reach me directly if there's a complaint. And
then, okay. And then my second question is, you know, I'm delighted there's been no issues. 30, you know, out of 365 days is really quite small. But what is the capacity and bandwidth that you're looking? Are there targeted goals? Because I'm sure there's a revenue aspect that goes with this. What are we looking at from both the Port Authority and New York Waterways as a template for what the future looks like? What are the goals? And what kind of percentage of business model are you looking to grow this to?
I'll step in before the Port Authority and just from a revenue perspective, it's really minute. It's not something that is going to make a difference to the company one way or the other, to be honest. It really just makes a difference to the people who operate in New York Harbor. These operators, you know, search for places where they can pick up that are convenient for their customers. The East River is pretty much monopolized by the EDC operations. Pier A is out of service. The Battery is monopolized by Statue. People come here because their guests are down here. I don't see this as a multiple, hundreds or we respond to a request. We're not out there selling it. People come to us, we try to understand what it is they want to do. And now if it fits within these parameters, we would grant them a permit. If it's more than a couple of months, I'd be shocked. But
Okay, I mean, I think where I was trying to go is, I agree, you shouldn't have to come for every one to discuss it with the community board if they follow guidelines, but, from just a pure perspective of impact on neighborhood, I think that there should be sort of a cap. If you're saying it's 150 people per excursion, right? If it's 1,000 people who are coming through, let's just argumentatively, just saying, for an event, what is the bandwidth? What is a fair number?
if you want to establish some parameters where, look, if it's over 200 people, there's a different notification to the community. If it's a particular type of event. I mean, I'm just trying to make this so that people aren't spending a lot of your time. I mean, this is our business. This is what we do. I don't know how much time you want to spend, talking about every one of these, but we can set thresholds that require your input.
I think that's kind of where I was going, is that, if it's worked well and you've not had many issues, that, maybe we don't need to have a dialogue on this unless it's, you use the number 200, so, unless it's over 200 people, or it becomes more like 25% of your business. Right now, it looks like it's, it's more than 25% of the days, so right now you're at 10. That's
Right. I don't see that happening, but we can agree on, and if you wish, give me I can work up some what I think would be thresholds for you to have the opportunity to say yes or no. All right, so if somebody comes in and they want to load 1,000 people on a boat, which is unlikely, I think that's something the community should have some input in, right?
Makes sense. I mean, off the cuff, I'm thinking 200, but I'm open to suggestions, just as an idea.
For an excursion, that's probably a reasonable number. For transport, it could be higher. Understand that, often it's a statue boat that might come in there and they hold 500-600 people. Jack will be joining us. Jack's on the line, but he can comment on there's typical sizes for boats. Certain thresholds: 149, 300, 600. You don't get much more than that. It's rare that you get a boat over that level.
How many of the boats, or how many times have you come to us on transport boats with that level? I don't recall reading about that level of people.
Most of the transports are small. They're often
Yeah.
in the 50 range. Might be a water taxi boat. For example, the one that we were just talking about recently that needed to go to Liberty Warehouse. Those boats were going to carry 149 each, and I think there were 2 trips. So,
You're showing the wrong thing, Zach, on the screen. Thank you.
Before we move in,
Sorry.
we move on. I didn't want to cut Donald off, but I know we were kind of throwing numbers around. I just want to be clear that this is a starting conversation and that we can have a smaller conversation with key stakeholders to see what consensus that we come to in terms of like.
That makes sense. And also, let's
costs.
see what Brian and Jay have to say if nobody else in the room is raising their hand. But in the top of my head, I'm thinking 200 and then come to us, which would eliminate most of what has happened. But let's talk about it. And then I do want to hear from Jack. But first,
Yeah.
Brian and then Jay. So if you could
Great.
unmute them respectively. Brian, you're unmuted. Go ahead. Nope, you muted yourself now. Try it again.
Okay.
Just speak. Go ahead, Brian.
I am Brian. So just to speak to Donald's point, I just want to start off by saying that now that C Streak operates there, they're operating probably one of the most, one of the loudest, boats that, probably creates challenging situations for people who live right by the marina. They operate the C Streak Millennium that shakes the building. The noise from that building is, I would use the term unbearable. And so that, and it sits there at the dock revving its engine for many minutes on hand. So the fact that, Donald and C Streak are the arbiter of what's a noisy or what's a bad charter service is concerning to me to start off with, because something certainly needs to be done with that C Streak Millennium. On top of that, I have a view, I face southwest right over the marina. So the terminal. So I personally have seen boats come in, tie up to that side that he's referring to and make announcements that I could hear clear as day from my apartment. And so I would say it's not true that they don't make announcements. I've heard it personally. Wedding boats, when I see them go down the river, I've never been to a wedding, and I've been to many where there wasn't music. And so I hear the music going up and down. To say that, oh, these are high class weddings, I've been to many. They have music too, and unfortunately you hear it. And 200 people coming off a boat drunk can be problematic to the people who hear this, besides all the other traffic going to these boats. And these are supposedly can operate during the normal times. From my understanding, I think the boats go there to the dock. I don't know if it's up until 11 or 12 at night. And according to his parameters, they have the ability to authorize them to do different times. That's problematic. Nowhere in the guidelines did I also see a maximum time to be allowed at the dock. And so a revving boat, and not all of them are tie-ups, a boat revving for 15 minutes is obscene depending on the type of boat it is. And so I know it's different for people on the ground, but when you live in the building, the vibrations can rattle the windows. 15 minutes of window rattling will drive someone nuts. Waking up children, besides that, adults, besides damage to the building itself and probably the environment. And so as far as rule enforcement, I haven't heard of real consequences. He said, hey, if they're not a good operator, we won't let them do it again. But is there any fines? Can they address fines? Let's give it some teeth here, because I don't know who's going to really enforce it when they're directing people to their social media things. No one here believes anything would actually happen. If a wedding comes in, that's the wedding's last time coming in, right? They're not getting married every weekend. And so these are all concerns. So I know it seems the way it's been portrayed, it doesn't happen much, but I'm concerned it's coming from C Streak, which has the loudest, most boat that's vibrating the building the most, and they're the arbiter of who's the good operator. So it's nothing personal, Donald, but I'm just addressing the concerns here. And so I just want to state that
let's let Jack answer, because I think that's a good point.
If I may just clarify one thing, it's C Streak isn't an operator of anything with respect to the management of the terminal. They can speak to their operations. We manage that terminal on behalf of the Port Authority. And so just so we're clear on.
But you allow who docks there?
If it's a commuter operation, yeah, it's a union terminal, so yeah.
So the water taxi. So again, if they're revving their boats, you do have an effect. And I'm sorry. So who is the person who allows these charters? And is it you or?
C Streak's not a charter. C Streak is a regular scheduled commuter service.
No, separate of I'm saying we're talking about charter boats being allowed.
Well, right now we would approve the permit. Your comment about the wedding being a one and done, but that doesn't mean the operator is a one and done. And we could set up a system where they leave a deposit greater than their landing fee, and if they violate the rules, then
what's a landing fee? How much is that?
It's minimal. It's $10 a foot.
Oh, so if so we'd have to have some teeth there. If you're going to tell me they're going to pay, $10 a foot, they'll just look at it as that's just a part of doing business. That would be the case.
Unless I ask them to leave, a significant deposit, and then there's a complaint, and then they lose their deposit. I mean, there's other ways to do this. I mean, it's really part of what we're hoping to accomplish tonight.
But and it would be great to set rules about the size of the boats, again, how they dock. You mentioned that many of them tie up, and that's great. but not all. So can we ban the ones that don't tie up? Because as someone had mentioned earlier,
listen,
the revving of the boat sitting at the dock because they have to sit and rev against the water, that's a problem. You guys don't hear it from where you are, but from where we live, it's
well, we're at the terminal, so we do hear it, but we don't ban boats. We're happy to deal with our fleet, and you guys have asked us over the years to restrict certain boats, and we do to the greatest extent possible. So, but, a boat comes to us, we, discuss it with our public partners, and if somebody wants to start a commuter operation, we provide them with as much information as possible. But Jack can address the Millennium. I think that's a temporary situation, and I think I'd rather let Jack talk about his.
And to be clear, Jack is not a charter boat that comes on occasion. Jack Sea Streak is not a charter boat. Sea Streak is a contracted transport
Right.
operator, so it's a different category. You wouldn't be coming to apply under these conditions.
No, I get that.
Okay.
I'm just saying, since they're making the decision on the charter, on the
Got
people
it.
coming, that's my concern, because they're already starting with a boat that creates a lot of problems, which is a separate conversation of this charter, this permitting process, whatever. I understand these are separate.
Right.
Okay, Brian, thank you. Jack, go ahead, answer, please, or respond.
Yes, well, good evening, everybody. Jack Bevan, Sea Streak. I was really unaware that there was a constant issue with the vessel. I did receive a complaint early on, probably about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, when the vessel was docking on the north side at the facility, which since then the vessel has been utilizing the south side. And this is the first I'm hearing that it's a constant complaint with the noise at the slip. And as far as the dwell time in the slip, I was under the impression that was pretty short based upon our schedule. I think we have maybe a 5 to 7 minute maybe a 5-minute window tops while they are loading there. I have spoke with the captains since we did receive that initial complaint about backing off the throttles while they're sitting there, the best they possibly can, while still being able to safely hold the vessel on the dock. But I'm open to hear some more. Like I said, I had one complaint on this and I wasn't aware that it was an ongoing issue. But to that note, before, this is a temporary boat for Sea Streak. One of my primary vessels is actually undergoing an EPA grant repower right now. That vessel is slated to return mid to late April, and once it does, the Millennium will no longer be operating on that route.
And if I may add, we've been asked to kind of overload the south side with the operations, and I'm not sure of the exact number, but I know we're probably approaching 70% of the operations are on the south side on any given day. And that was in response to comments from previous meetings. So, we can try to redistribute it, but we're trying to create a balance between community needs and operators' ability to safely access the slips.
I appreciate that. And Jack, thank you for coming to this meeting. And I have to give you advance warning. A lot of people are going to be, I'm going to imagine Jay and Michelle and Corin are all going to complain about the Millennium. So I'm going to not come up. I'll let Jay go next. So unmute yourself, or first unmute and let him speak. But if there's anything you can do to not have the Millennium be there, because I'm going to ask you, Jay, if in fact in the last month, for example, the Millennium has been docking on the south side, has that made any difference? And that's going to be a question for people who live there. But go ahead, Jay, speak.
Hey guys, this is Jay. So let me just correspond to Jack first. So Jack, I wrote you that email about 2 months ago, but you never responded. So we don't know if you got that email. But for the credit, the boat has been moved to the south side after I sent the email. And for your question that you never get any complaint, and that wasn't true. We wrote so many emails to Port Authority to download, so I guess download that will forward you those emails. And Justin, you can pretty much, including in all those emails, how many times we wrote them. So Jack, further to our complaint, whenever Millennium comes, our entire building shakes, people would wake up 7 a.m. in the morning. You know, a lot of people don't get up 7 a.m. in the morning, especially kids. And the bullshit, the community newspaper just did a survey. There are many parents complain that their kids got, sleep deprived because all these vessels come so early due to this noisy engine and vibration coming into the apartment. And in my email, I did have a couple recommendations to you. I'm not sure if you actually remember. One of your vessels, which you use to send to Battery Park City, is the C Street, New Jersey. So by far, we thought that one is the most quiet. So not sure if that's the one that you mentioned earlier. You were going to resend that one to the neighborhood. We would greatly appreciate it if that's the one.
So the C Street, New Jersey and the C Street Millennium have been the two primary vessels on the route. The vessel that I was mentioning undergoing the repower is the C Street Highlands, which will have the same propulsion and exhaust silencer package as the C Street, New Jersey. I guess you would call them sister ships. So as far as noise levels, they would be exactly the same.
Right, we actually did a study and we did a decibel measurement, and they are about the same, you're correct. But at the flip side, it seems like the Highland has more vibration in our apartment. But I hate to bring in this, but every time I would like to bring in NYC ferries. It looks like the NYC ferry captains do a very good job and very professional when they have to dock. They always slow down and turn their engine to the minimum. You don't hear any ramping. And when they dock at the terminal, you don't see the NYC ferry ramping up the engine, press the boat against the dock. I'm not saying they are both are really quiet. What I'm saying is because they're doing that, we don't feel the vibration in our apartment and we don't feel any noise coming in from the engine. So it would be great if you can advise all the captains when they come in, especially from the low side, just easy on the engine. And when they depart for the NYC ferry, when they depart, they actually purposely point the rear of the engine away from the building towards the river, towards New Jersey side. So when they actually have to accelerate, we don't hear that. So if there's something that, all the other operators can follow, I mean, that would be great to the community.
Yeah, I'm taking notes. I'll speak to my operators, the captains that operate the vessels. I think one thing just to note here is that the vessels that we're operating are water jet vessels. So even though they're sitting at the dock, you may see a lot of water moving behind the boat. That does not mean that they have the RPMs increased on the engine. It's just a different type of propulsion system on board.
Appreciate the comment, but we can tell you when the Millennium is ramping up the engine, the entire building can feel it.
So Jack, thank you. I know this is the first time you're hearing it, but whatever you could, from us personally, and like I said, I appreciate your being here, because this is a really hard issue. Donald has sat through many, many meetings where people, I really loved the one meeting where parent after parent came up to say that their child's first words were beep, beep, because of the horns beeping. So I mean, it's a big issue.
So Jack, I mean, if you don't mind to leave your email with the community board, so we can, communicate directly with you.
Absolutely.
Or just CC you into the loop. So going back to the charter boat, and I would like to say that over the last 3 years, we did make a couple complaints, but we don't know who to send it to. There are a few times at night, as late as 11 p.m., there are couple charter boats tied up to the terminal. They are playing really loud music. And I remember I sent an email and actually take a picture, send it to Betty. So Donald, our major concern with this charter boat is, as far as the residents living in the building is not much about the traffic going in and out, about the impact of these vessels. As you know, you and I have probably talked about the impact of the noise for more than 10 years now. So is it possible that you can have some policy in place, such as they must be side loaded. They never dock at the north side. And when they dock at the terminal, they have to turn off their engine.
Well, every boat is not a side loading boat, so we need to be clear about that. And if there was noise at the terminal, and I'm surprised that I didn't get a complaint, Jay, and I'm sure you would have, but perhaps you missed me on that email.
Well, I didn't know that you're responsible for, otherwise we would more than happy to let you know.
I'm sure I'll get them now. But we manage the terminal, so I'm happy to address any of those concerns. Look, it's a multi-use terminal in terms of types of boats. You know, Jack and I both have boats that bow and side load, and we try to use them where appropriate. Again, I'm happy to field any complaints. This is not a main line of my business. I don't look to generate revenue, you know, as much as people might think we are from these one-off uses. But look, I'm in the marine industry, and it's an important industry in New York Harbor, and we try hard to make sure that there's locations available for vessel operators.
Right.
And I assure you, if they're a problem child, they'll be gone. I can't put it any other way. But commuter operations like Jack and I run, you know, they're a vital part of transportation in New York Harbor.
Well, we definitely appreciate what guys you have done to transport people to make the economy work. At the same time, we as residents living in the community, you know, we also entitled to, you know, our quality of life.
No, and I understand, and we've been operating there since 1989. And, you know, you heard Jack, just trying to modify a boat is a lengthy and very expensive process. I mean, we're rehabbing our boats. It takes months.
Well, we
right?
understand that that's the cost of doing business in a residential neighborhood other than a commercial
Well,
neighborhood.
it's, you know, you talk about citywide boats, but, you know, the citywide boats, they receive, you know, a $75 million subsidy every year. We operate without subsidies. So every time we have to rehab a boat, it's on our dime.
Right.
Isn't it
So-
enough to get some public assistance? I'm just trying to make the point that we're trying to modify our fleets, upgrade our fleets, move to different propulsion systems.
So going
yeah.
to your point, actually, I do have a comment to your point. It's great news that you're going to electrify about the you know, Empire class or the single Hope class between Hoboken and BBC. Hopefully that's on time. But I do.
Excuse
I
me,
would
Jay.
like, yeah.
Jay, this is Jeff Galloway, the co-chair. I think we need to move through the questions. We have a limited.
So can you just give me like 2 more minutes? I'll be done in 2 minutes. So
Yeah, 'cause
Donald, I
I've got to
just,
tell you, just so you know, Michelle and Corin, we've got to stop by 7 because the next folks have to come on. So Jay, if you're willing to
2 minutes. Trust me,
go
2
quick,
minutes.
and we're gonna turn the mic off in 2 minutes.
No problem, 2 minutes. So Donald, I will have to, one more suggestion about the Frank Sinatra. I know that you talk about repowering the Frank Sinatra, but I have to tell you, every morning when it comes at 6:30, not every day, but a lot of the time, it's just so noisy, the entire building shakes.
Right, but we've had this, Jay, we've had this conversation, and I'm glad Jack's here. Because it really depends on the wind and the tide and how a captain has to hold a boat in position. There'll be days when I'm fighting the tide in the wind. There's days when I'm with the tide in the wind. And, you know, employee safety, customer safety, you know, we're aware of it. We tell our captains to minimize. I won't get into it now. We've been fortunate, and we've received several grants to convert our fleet to hybrids where you will have no engine noise, no emissions at the dock, very little vibration. I really don't want to get into it now. We have limited time. Happy to discuss it with you offline if you wish, but
Yeah, awesome.
let's
We
not
take it offline, yeah.
monopolize people's time right now.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for Justine and the CB1.
Thank you so much, Jay. Corin, Unmute, and like I said, we gotta stop because our next, so go quick, okay?
I was in the middle of a commute the last hour of this and dropped off, so sorry if I missed something. But I received a message from our resident manager. I live in Two River Terrace, same building as Brian, and I was made aware that they're possibly adding some additional ferry boats in the morning. I think one of the was the Millennial. My personal concern is the horn honking. I do not particularly care or hear the vibrations. It's more of the horns, which have really significantly improved in the last 1 or 2 years. I can't remember the last time I joined this call, but for the last year or two, it has been, for me, great. I do have concerns that with a new boat and some early morning ferry arrivals and departures, that noise will start again. So I just kind of wanted to get a better understanding of that from the operators.
I think and I won't speak for Jack, but we've all tried to minimize the horns within the regulations. We've reduced or altered the horns as while they're Coast Guard acceptable, they're much more acceptable to community as well. We've actually, as of the first of the year, there's been a reduction in the number of boats coming to the terminal, not an increase. I'm not aware of, no one's come to us for any additional landing slots. I don't think Jack has anything on the agenda, but if he does, but we've reduced it one route by almost 50%, and that was the Paula Sook service, which was singularly the busiest route coming into that terminal.
Sorry, will the new the early morning editions have boats that make different noises, I guess is my question. Is there any way that we can have some reassurance that there will not be?
The only boats that came in that are new are the South Amboy boats, and they arrive 4 times throughout the 4-hour period, but they're not particularly earlier than anything else that arrives there.
Okay, so there will not be any additional boats that will be causing any elevated sound other than what we're experiencing now.
I think what you're experiencing right now is the agenda for the, I would say, for 2024.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Corin. I see we have a call-in user. We are really out of time because we've got our next presenters. Please just stay for the meeting, and I apologize for not calling on you, but we just don't have the time. I want to thank Donald and
Just-
Libby. Go ahead.
Justine, they can email questions and concerns to Zach, who can follow up for the dial-in
That's
users.
perfect.
Zach, would you mind just have them drop a note into the chat and Zach will reply.
So if you can do that, and then Zach, also share with this caller if it's possible, or put it in the chat that's public, your email. And this way, I apologize, but we got to go. And I want to thank Jack and C Streak. I fear for you that this is going to be maybe multiple times we're going to call you back, but I appreciate anything and everything you can do to minimize the vibrations as with safety. And I thank you, Libby and Ophelia and Donald, for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good
Take
evening.
care, everybody.
Good
Yeah,
night.
have a
Take care.
great evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Zach, would you pull up the agenda? And I think we're gonna have some folks that we're gonna need to move over. Nick Bordone would be one person. I don't know who the call-in users are, so I can't tell them. Gwen Dawson should be in. Kate McDougal. Rick Fogarty, right? And Sherry Hyman.
Just raise your hand if you're need to be moved over to speak.
Peter Garcia in the room.
And just so folks know, I gotta read it from my phone to say what the next agenda is. Item is, it's and we have some folks in the room too, sorry. But our next agenda item is the Northwest Battery Park City Resiliency Projects Post 30% Design Update, and it's for reaches 6 and 7, which really covers the territory from about South End Avenue, North Cove Marina, south to the Museum of Jewish Heritage, which of course is the South Resiliency Project. All right, so I believe, Zach, that there's a presentation that was sent, and we've got some folks in the room, so I don't want to kick it over to whoever wants to take over. But you see, is Nick still there? Do you see him? I saw him online before. He's going to be on and off.
It's okay, we've got the people in the room who need to be.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine.
Peter and Joe, Peter Glass and Joe Marone are,
Yeah.
are just in the group.
Claudia, you lead, you tell us what we need and we'll take care of it.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was just saying, I think just also to be let in is Joe Marone from Arcadis and Peter Glass also from Arcadis, who should be on virtually. Sorry for not introducing myself. Thanks, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Claudia Filomena. I'm the Senior Director of Capital Projects at the Battery Park City Authority. And we're here tonight, as Justine said, to give a presentation on our Northwest BPC project, specifically on what we call reaches 6 and 7, which is essentially the south neighborhood, as Justine said, between Liberty and First Place and west of South End Avenue. I'm joined, as always, Nick Spordone, who you all know, and who's a frequent visitor here at BPC. Also Gwen Dawson, our Senior Vice President of Real Property. The design team side here in the room, we have Rachel Wilkins, who's from BIG, and Lee Altman, who is from Scape Landscape Architecture. Also on the call, we should have Peter Bless and Joe Marone, who are from Arcadis, who are the engineers for the project. I will hand it off to one of them, presuming that they're in the room. I don't know if Gwen wants to say something first, but this is basically what we presented at our November 30th public meeting. But some things actually I want to show you are based on some feedback we got at the meeting.
Can you
I don't know that we have everybody moved over. Sorry. For the record, you guys are now on mute.
Okay, yeah, I think Joe and I are in the panelist room, so I can do, Mike,
Good.
can
You
you hear
guys
me?
just unmute yourselves, Joe.
Joe, can you unmute?
I can. You hear me?
Okay, great. All right, so we're both here. Okay, great.
All right, take it away, guys. Introduce yourselves and take it away.
Yeah, I'm Peter Glass with the design team with Turner E. Cruz. We're with Arcadis, and Joe is the lead coastal engineer on the project. And Joe, I'm going to pass the mic to you to kick it off. A lot of the content is going to be delivered by the folks who are in the room, specifically Lee and Rachel, because it involves more of their disciplines. So, Joe, I pass the mic to you.
Thanks, Peter. So if we can go ahead to move forward to the slides. So just, we do have some background slides in here. We can go through pretty quickly. It's just always, we think it's always good to give a little background so everybody can be at the same place. So this project's being delivered through the design build, progressive design build model. So we do have our contractor lead, which is Turner E. Cruz. And then, as mentioned, the Arcadis Big Scape team on the design side, and then similar with Battery Park City, AECOM is leading the engineering and design on the client side. So if we can go to the next slide. So just today's agenda, which is the project overview, and then more focused discussion around what we call reach 6 and 7. We can explain what that is in a minute. And we'll go to the next. So the project timeline. So where
is there a box?
I thought that was just seeing that. There. Okay. Thank you.
In their computer.
So where we are, so we're working through the design process. You may recall we had our 30% design community meeting back in June, and we're now in what we call 60% design, which is just a measure of how far through the whole design process we are. So we are still working on the design, still decisions to be made, and then looking for construction in 2025, late 2024, early 2025. So let's go ahead to the next slide. Oh, this kind of summarizes what I just said. So we like to always show kind of why we're doing this project, and why we're trying to do this project is to reduce risk of coastal storm surge and rainfall in the project area. And this map shows shows the inundation limits that would happen with a current, what people refer to as a 100-year storm, and then with 2.5 feet of sea level rise, which is the 90th, which is a projection into the 2050s. So let's go to the next slide. And with that, Rachel, I will turn it over to you to walk through the details on Reach 6.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rachel Wilkins. I'm with the urban design team with BIG, and we have our scope is Reach 6. So I'm going to start with a brief overview of Reach 6, and then we'll get into some of the street ends and nodes, which is the reason why we're talking here today about this. And the purpose is to present it to you, to give you some of the justification for the design and the program locations, and also to get some initial feedback from you guys. So right now we're just looking at the overall map of Reach 6. Everything that is not grayed out is within scope for the project. This is known kind of colloquially as the South Esplanade. Go to the next slide. Just a refresh of some of the high-level things that we've heard in kind of the ongoing community meetings. The trees are very important. We should protect as many large trees as we can. There's been a lot of concern about some of the vegetation that is there now needing to be taken up in order to build the wall or build the program. And we received the feedback that they'd like to see equal or additional vegetation to replace that. There's a lot of questions and concerns over the art pieces that are around the site, what's going to happen with them. There's a couple that are mobile and can be moved or relocated. There's a couple of art pieces that are on-site installations where there's a few more challenges around them. We also received feedback that some of our previous design iterations, the secondary path had too much meander and there was too much elevation change along this path. It was a question of accessibility and ease of circulation. There were also questions about where the openings in the FBS system are to be located and how people get from what we call the dry side of the wall or the protected side of the wall to the wet side, which is where the esplanade and the park places are located. Also, there's a lot of concern about the views to the water from the street ends. So when you're standing in the street ends and you have this FBS system that is between you and the park, are you able to see through that to the water? What are these street ends visual corridors going to look like? And then also we received favorable feedback initially about the programs at the street end nodes. But we did hear that you guys wanted some additional justification and kind of elaboration on the designs, which is why we're here today. You go to the next slide, please. So I'll start with kind of a high-level overview of what we call Reach 6, and then we'll start to get into some of the nodes just to give everybody a refresher. So right now we're looking at what is essentially the intersection of Reaches 5 and 6. So this is right next to Kowski Plaza, where the kind of movable volleyball mat is located. This is the existing view that you can see now. You can see that there's the volleyball mat. There's a bunch of park standard benches, as well as the retaining wall in the background. Go to the next slide, please. And then here in this slide, we've started to kind of dash in the existing conditions, the approximate location and height of where the wall will be located. Go to the next slide, please. And so this is an approximate rendering from the same view. And you can't really see the wall in this image because we have some raised planters that go in front of it, but you can see the top of wall elevation at 19.5 in the background. We did propose some elevated planters so that for a few reasons, one, to get some additional soil volume for new trees and planting, and also so that we can start to look at softening the appearance of the wall and the site. In this area, we are also, proposing to bring back the volleyball mat because we know that's very much appreciated amenity. Next slide, please.
I'll hold questions.
Sure. This is looking at the Gateway Apartments and where the wall alignment is currently. So right now, the wall, the justification for where the wall is in this area is there's a few different things that are going on. First, there is the foundation for the Gateway Apartments that we need to work around. We don't want the footings of the wall to in any way impact the building. And we're also we're working with the engineering team to explore different schemes for the wall so that we can provide the same types of views that you get right now in and out of the restaurant. Go to the next slide, please. And so these are two of the different schemes that we're currently exploring right now. This is kind of a high-level first blush. We're still working with the engineering team and the contracting team to find out what the best scheme is, both for wave attenuation and as well as for visibility from inside the restaurant to the outside. So the first image is showing a solid flood barrier system with a little cap on it that we call a recurve. The great thing about the recurve is that when we have this geometry on the top of the wall, we're able to lower the height of the wall just through engineering studies of some things called overtopping, which is when you have a storm surge and water hits the wall, how that water acts. Is it able to splash over the wall or not? With this recurve, you're able to redirect some of the water back, and so you're able to decrease the height of the wall. The second option is showing a little bit of a higher wall without that recurve on top with what we call deployables. Deployables are a blanket term for any opening in the wall that can be closed. There's a couple different types of deployables that we're still exploring throughout the project. And we could, I think we'll get into those at a later date. But if we were to go with deployables, this would allow for larger openings in the face of the wall between the restaurant and the Esplanade, and it would allow for much greater visibility.
I'm sorry, this is Joe Marone. Can I just jump in real quick? The one thing that I think is worth probably noting about the Gateway area, it's a unique situation in that the building actually extends out over the platform in this location. So it's a little different situation. The Esplanade itself, and not everybody realizes this, is actually a platform. It's not solid ground. And so in many cases that we'll move to next in the next couple of slides, the FBS follows the existing privacy wall, but in this location, specifically at the gateway here, the wall has to come out and around, the FBS system has to come out and around the gateway because the building itself is out on the platform.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
Joe
Joe.
and Peter, just a quick question and go back one slide just to make it clear. What you're looking at here is where the restaurant is, right? This is the gateway part. That
Yeah.
is where there's the swimming pool back there, at one point of it, whatever else, and this is by the restaurant.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And did you want to ask a question?
I'll wait until you're done.
Yeah, we'll wait until you're done. Yeah, no, I'm trying not to interrupt you, but I just sometimes have clarifying things. Thank you.
Sure. This is This is the existing view at Rector Place. This is looking down and you can see that there's the primary circulation path at the Esplanade, and then you have this secondary path that is separated by kind of an amenity zone that has benches, trees, cobble on top of it, and little planting areas. Go to the next slide, please. And this is starting to dash in approximately where the FBS would go. And again, just to reiterate, this is going where the existing privacy wall is now. Next slide, please. And this is the view for what that would look like. We're looking at, we would have the FBS wall and we'd have a zone of lush planting in front of it. We are prohibited from having trees within 15 feet of the wall, but we do think that we'll be able to get some taller non-woody plant material in this zone. We're also looking at, the design is looking at creating a very immersive and lush environment. We're working closely with Scape, who is the landscape architect on the project, to propose a very biologically diverse plant palette that includes pollinators, native species, and a lot of microhabitats for birds, bees, and insects. Next slide, please. So this is the street view from West Thames. So this is looking from the cul-de-sac at the end of West Thames and looking out onto the water. Next slide, please. And this is looking at the approximate location of where the FBS wall will be located and where the opening would be. In one thing that I want to note, here's one of the big pieces of feedback that we received in the last community engagement meeting is that there's concern about the size of these openings, and you guys asked us to explore other options for more openings, for larger openings. That is an ongoing task that we're collaborating with the engineering team and the contractors on to see how we can make that happen. Next slide, please. This is a rendering that shows where that where the current wall is located. Next slide, please. And this is kind of the current study that we're looking at right now. Again, there's quite a few structural things that we're collaborating on to see if we can get them to work about where these openings can go. When these gates do close, we do need a certain amount of infrastructure in the middle for the gates to latch to in order for them to be structurally secure in a high water event. There are also some foundation issues that we're working around, both for the wall and finding space to locate these off of the platform. So this is something that we are exploring for all of the 3 street ends in this area, and we will come back to you guys once we have a little bit more information.
Can you go back just to the street ends and like that's what you're currently proposed, and then the next one is that you've gotten negative feedback, then this one is what you're currently looking at.
That's what we're currently exploring.
And so do you have the same thing for the end of Albany where the upper room is and the view with Rector from exactly this view?
I do not have diagrams for that, but we are exploring larger and more openings at the street ends in those locations as well. This was kind of new feedback, and so it takes a minute for us to get the engineering team mobilized to start these studies.
But having to answer your question, we would
Yes.
have the same view because we wanted to, once we heard that people wanted to see more openings, we want to look at it for each of the street ends and be able to show that rendered view that you saw before with this new opening, with the larger opening.
And I guess one of the questions specifically when we're looking at Rector and which does not have as much open streetscape like this as the big
It's a pretty big gap.
cul-de-sac. Yeah, there's
Right.
a giant cul-de-sac here, and there's a giant cul-de-sac at the end of Albany.
Yep, and at the end of Rector too.
Yeah, it's not a cul-de-sac, but it's a very wide.
It's very
It's
wide,
wide,
right, it's wide.
But the question, I guess, that was asked in the meetings that I will repeat again is knowing that you have cul-de-sacs at the end here and at the end of Albany, with only entrances to buildings on the south side of those cul-de-sacs, how could the art or other things be representatively looked at if you don't need to have the cul-de-sac as it is?
To modify this, to modify like the actual street geometry, so it's not a cul-de-sac and it's sort of, that becomes the street end essentially.
It does that help in any way to keep either art like the upper room in place in the neighborhood, or does it help keep openings grander? You know,
Yeah, I think, yeah, no, it's a valid question. I think it comes down to, at these street ends, we have this sort of odd situation where part of it is city owned and part of it is Battery Park City owned. So it's about figuring out how we clearly identify that in all these locations too, about what the property line is, because sometimes that's a bit of a gray area. But I think we should look at it in the event that it's something that could actually keep the look and feel, which I think is what you're getting at, of today.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's possible everywhere. I think maybe at some of these, I know people have raised a lot of questions about the upper room, and that's one of the installations Rachel was talking about, where it's an installation in place. But I think where we have artwork like Rector Gate or other pieces that can be, you know, relocated, like picked up, even like what we did in Wagner Park for the South, where we picked it up, moved during construction, moved it back. I think it's worth looking at if we can just make sure we understand the jurisdiction, because we don't want to start propose putting this in the city street.
and I'm gonna go ahead and say that jurisdiction is somewhat meaningless on the dialogue because you're going all the way up to North Moore.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
had
The DOT should work with us on this.
with DOT
Yeah.
and DEC, DEP,
You're 100%, you're
BMCC.
100% right.
So for me, I hear that it is something that you have to check, but it is something that you are already working with all of them. When I think before you started at BPCA, we had worked on a proposal for a complete redesign of South End Avenue.
Yeah. Mhm.
If you were there then, so there have been many dialogues about change.
Hey, Tammy, it's Gwen. I want to understand exactly what it is that you're suggesting because I'm a little unclear. You're saying that you're looking at, you want us to look at eliminating the cul-de-sac?
Oh, I don't think you're saying that, are you, Tammy?
I'm saying that the cul-de-sac should be included in the conversation for real estate available to be used in terms of resiliency, whether or not how it's used. You have,
The actual area that is now being used as street surface.
yeah,
Okay,
you have,
okay.
you've got amazing engineers and, you know, creative design people who work with you, so I wouldn't be the one to say how, but just to say, to make sure that that real estate is included in the dialogue and conversation, if it is a possibility that allows you to have the more open ends to retain some of that aspect of it, or save the art.
I got it.
And/or.
Sure, yeah. I mean, and this is amazing difference here with this slide that we're looking at right now. If you can get just that, this is horrifying. If you can get to the other one and still make it safe, that is a big difference.
And
So, yeah.
I
mean,
mean, one of the considerations when you're looking, obviously Rector has entrances to the residential buildings, both north and south at the end.
Yes.
But both West Thames and Albany only need or only have entrances on the south side. The north side of both of those streets are backyards and have fences and walls there and greenery.
So you could build, you can continue with the privacy wall idea on those areas, but
I mean, it is a little complicated. I mean, there is a kind of a demapping of streets that would have to happen. So, I mean, there's complexity because of the city DOT ownership, but I take your point and I think it's worth looking at.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I had not, I mean, until you brought this up, honestly, I had not heard anybody bring it up in a prior meeting. So it's actually an interesting concept that we should look more at. I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah.
You didn't say
Because
it to me. So I didn't say it to me, but No, but it's an interesting concept. If, again, we can work out all the
Yeah.
painful
You're
parts,
already
right?
crossing 9A,
Yeah.
so.
Exactly. We have
Yeah.
enough open conversations for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is not to suggest how that real estate can be used, but since having more real estate may be able to mitigate the impacts, you know, that you're constrained by certain real estate limitations right now, and you're doing whatever it is that you can do with them. I think Tammy's suggestion is maybe there's actually a little more real estate that you can work with, and maybe that will allow for a better solution. Maybe not, but maybe it will.
Yeah. A less intrusive blocking of views and blocking of things solution. That's a really great suggestion. I guess continue, right? You're not done yet, are you?
No. Let's see, can you go back one more just so I can reorient myself? Okay, so, next slide, please. So this is looking at the regatta view, at the street end. And showing, we kind of show where the, FBS is replacing the privacy wall. You can start to see the jogs in the wall, and basically what that's doing is it's pulling the foundation of the gates off of the platform, which is why it's doing that. Next slide, please. This is showing the view from the south corner. So this is looking at the intersection of reaches 6 and reach 7, looking back up the Esplanade towards reach 5. Next slide, please. And this is starting to block in the approximate location of where the FBS wall would go here. Next slide, please. And then this is showing a view from approximately the same location that shows the secondary forest path that we've proposed as part of the design, and as well as the Esplanade, which is going to be protected in place on this part of the project. Next slide, please. So now we're going to start to get into really the point that you guys have asked for a little bit more elaboration on, and this is the entrance nodes and the programs that are located there. These are the areas that are adjacent to the Esplanade at the street ends, and so we've devised kind of 3 different types of programs for these areas, and we'll get into kind of the justification and the thinking behind which program where as we dive into each of the specifics. But the 3 program areas that we're looking at are a nature play, a gathering space, and a leisure lawn. Next slide, please. And then I'll kind of go through a series of concept diagrams that we put together that starts to explain the geometry. So right now, the relationship between the street ends and the Esplanade is it's very light. There's not a very strong connection between them. And so in the new design, we have the Esplanade, which is kind of this, you know, large green line represented by the large green line. And then we have the kind of undulating secondary forest path. And we're showing how these 3 street ends are starting to meet. And there's no real engagement between the 2. Next slide, please. And so the design is starting to look at what happens if we start to stitch these street ends and make more of a pedestrian connection as you're coming through the FBS system and you start to go to the Esplanade. And what that does, you can go to the next slide, please, is it creates this hierarchy of space at the intersection of where these happen. And so each of these is kind of, it just creates a space where we're able to do something a little bit more interesting to add some variety and interest to the program here. Next slide, please. And so looking at the location of these 3 different programs, from left to right, we're proposing a nature play, a gathering space, and a leisure lawn. And the nature play would be located closer to the Reach 6 and Reach 7 intersection. The gathering would be in the center node, and the leisure lawn will be closer to the Reach 5 and Reach 6 intersection.
Which, can you, instead of using reach names, can you please tell us exact intersections? Because that is what the public actually needs to.
I'm getting to it. Next slide, please. And so this is showing where each of those programs are located relative to the streets. So at the street end at Albany, we're proposing a leisure lawn. At the street end of Rector, we're proposing a conversation room, and at West Thames, we're proposing the nature play. And now,
Question, can I ask a question here? So from looking at this, you're not looking at putting them closer to the street, you're putting them at the water, is that correct?
we're putting them along the back of the Esplanade.
Back. Um,
So is that?
But they are closer to the water.
They
to
are closer.
answer your question.
Yes.
So it's,
no,
are they?
it's the
Say
upper level of, because we've got two levels of the, so I would call this the walking path, what you've got as the meandering path. It would be the upper path, the walking part of the Esplanade, not the faster use path that's attached, adjacent to the water. Is that correct?
That's it. They would be on the, so you can see where the line jogs along the side, the dark black line that is on the kind of more generous side of the nodes. That is actually the portion of the Esplanade that is to be protected in place over the course of the project. So these nodes are directly adjacent to that.
Right, we're maintaining the lower path,
Right, we're
That's
making,
in, yeah.
exact.
the faster path, as you called it.
Yeah, I don't want to say where the bicycles go, but kind of it is. Thank you.
You can go to the next slide, please. So the first program that we'll address is the leisure lawn. What this is a gently sloping lawn towards the water. This is a place where people can come out with towels, sit on the grass. They'll have direct views to the water. It's starting to provide a flexible open green space where currently there is a flexible green space, but it's kind of this large paved area that doesn't have a lot of vegetation. So when we were proposing this design,
That's the upper room space.
Well, upper room is actually here.
Right.
This would be where the upper room is, and you're asking my question. How does this interfere with the upper room?
The upper room, because of its size and the nature of its installation and material, it can't remain in its current form. I mean, with the barrier system that needs to be constructed. So we are right now working with the engineering folks to determine exactly how much space and where that space is that's available after the flood barrier system is installed, to create what we hope to be able to work with the artist on, an alternate art piece that would be able to be compatible with the new setting here.
That wouldn't be in the grass.
That's not a substitute for the lawn. You contemplate.
That in
both.
addition to, yes.
Would be back closer to the street in the
Yes.
space where it is now. Okay, so you're talking about both. Okay.
Right. We can go to the next slide. This is showing kind of the existing condition. And so what the design is responding to is that this is an open space that can be used for, a lot of different uses, but right now it's a large expanse of hardscape. And so we were thinking of ways to propose another open space that also was a little bit softer and had more vegetation and was had a more friendlier feel to it.
Could you go back and do dimensions?
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
I see where you have heights, and that's all really interesting for a gentle sloping lawn. But is that space really more like, I don't know, 10 feet wide by 5 feet wide?
So
Because-
so right now, the secondary paths that we're showing in this, let's see. They are 10 feet wide. So that would make, I would say that from the farthest back of the lawn to the front is maybe approximately 30 feet wide.
But maybe we want to just go back and double check the dimensions, and we can always just circle back, just to make sure that it's like more precise.
It's really hard to understand whether you're talking about a space that's as big as this room, which is kind of what I think you're talking about. And the substantive design ideas the photos are taken in a very large, expansive way. what I look and see and understand, I'm a dog owner, 3 kids, bikes, scooter, the whole 9 yards, is a great place that people are gonna be walking by and their dog's gonna pee there. It's gonna be a dog pee lawn on the Esplanade. It's not really actually a usable green space, only because, I mean, there's no green lawns for dogs really supposedly allowed in Battery Park City, and in the south side, definitely not. So I understand the design idea, but I think the functionality of how we know the area works, I'd have real serious concerns on that. And
Yeah.
people tell me if I'm wrong, but I know I would sit there with my dog.
Yeah, no, I mean, and people, whether you want them to or not, they're gonna walk their dogs on this green space.
Which is another reason why, you hear me harp about how great the upper room is, but one of the reasons is it's a gathering space that people can sit, you can see the water, you can eat lunch, you could sit there, it's really kind of bizarre and interesting. You could play games there, there's many things you can do on that restful space without being over the water where the wind is a little bit more brutal. And B, you can actually have your pet there and it's not an issue.
Right, it's not gross.
I think this is also the type of feedback we wanted too.
Yeah.
Because the idea is like, if it doesn't work, it's like a nice, again, it's something that I think we talked about internally. Rachel and Lee definitely heard me say this more than once. Like, it's great in theory, but it may not be practical based on how the space is used. So, I mean, again, I think it'd be helpful to, after this, like, you guys have the presentation, if you want to provide comments on that, on more of these things too, because I think it's helpful for us to understand, like, if this really is gonna work, or if from a dimensional standpoint, like, it's more like a strip of grass rather than like a lawn, and then it encourages people, right, to take their dogs or litter or whatever it is. Like, we don't want to create like a quality of life issue rather than.
I mean, Claudia, just so you know, people routinely walk their dogs on the AstroTurf at West Thames Park. They
Oh, I know.
routinely walk their
I've seen that.
dogs. I mean, so I mean, you would think that AstroTurf gross, it's not even natural, but they routinely walk their dogs there. So will they walk their dogs even if this is 30 feet? Yeah, they will. But then you can plug in the bathroom if it reaches. But another, well, okay, that's one thing. And then the next question, sorry, if I can just say this, Tammy, quick. The next thing would be is that we need, and this is like an Alice thing, but we would need better design to understand what this is with dimensions and stuff. But yeah,
Just to be clear, this is just a concept at this point. So yeah, I mean, if this were something that we thought had lots of support, and we would advance to a further design, but this is really just a concept at this point. And something we were looking at just to sort of program these sort of spaces that may not be heavily used right now. So understood, yeah, we would want to provide more detail, especially dimensions with paths and et cetera. Sorry, I didn't want
But right, but if we can't cancel it.
Justine, Betty had a question.
Go ahead, Betty. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Sorry, Betty.
Whenever you're looking at grass, to me it means forget it if you have wheels. So anybody in a wheelchair, anybody using walker to push it, they can't use that space and they've lost space. Dogs win, people lose.
I'm not sure the dogs want either, but.
Yeah. So, they like it.
Yeah, that's always a good point, Betty. You're right. There's no way it's not accessible.
But the strollers and others, you are compressing those people more and with wheelchairs. I mean, I just can't go on the grassy areas. Yeah, thank you.
So let's go through the other nodes.
Sure. Yeah, we can keep going. You can go to the next slide, please.
Wait, if we stay on that one, go back one, and I'd like to just point out stuff to the folks that are here. Can you explain what will remain untouched in this picture and what is subject to change? I know the answer, but explain it to folks.
Sure. So you see where the two people are walking?
Yes.
Okay, in this image, and then you can see the curb where you have that second row of trees. Nope, the one in front, the one on the other side of that. So the curb that is closest to the ladies walking, right there, right. Everything that is to the water side of that line along most of the esplanade is to be protected in place. So the esplanade, the areas with the benches, the balustrade next to the water, all of that is to either be protected or replaced in kind. Everything to the back of that curb to the privacy wall is what is being redesigned.
We're not necessarily preserving the trees that are in that stretch, or maybe we are.
So
No,
the
not that,
trees
those
that are-
trees. And I'm gonna ask another question. I understand that these have to go.
The center
where
row.
your cursor is, but how about the ones right next to the two people walking? That's strip.
Yes, we are, the design is worked around to save as many of those middle row of trees as possible, which is actually one of the reasons why the path has the meander.
Got it. Now, one more question. Again, I know the answer to it, but I don't know if people do. When you say privacy wall against the buildings, I mean, Gateway has it, every building along the water has these privacy walls for the first floor. Explain to me what that means to these privacy walls. Can you just use what's there and extend the height? Or do you have to take that out and redo it?
We need to take it out and redo it. In order for the flood wall to function, it's a very different type of structure than your standard privacy wall or even a retaining wall. There's a significant foundation that's associated with it. There's a significant thickness that is required in order to withstand the force of a high water event. As well as something called a seepage barrier that goes underneath the wall, which prevents water from hydrostatically pushing under the wall and inundating through the other side, which has a lot of different engineering implications for a high water event.
Makes
So
sense.
the engineering of the privacy wall unfortunately will not function as a flood wall. Or at least, no engineer would feel comfortable letting it.
So all of this has to go and it's all gonna be redone, which is part of why we're gonna lose the little garden part and then the trees there and that whole area. That's gonna, everything to the left of that, on the upper path, basically, the slow path, it's gonna have to go. Question that I have for you now is what impact, if any, is gonna happen to the people who live in these first floor apartments? What's gonna happen to their apartment? What's gonna happen? I mean, will they be able to continue to live there? What's gonna happen has that been considered?
They will continue to live there. The flood wall is going to replace the privacy wall and it will increase in height, but it should function on the dry side of the wall. So in between the new wall and the building, the space should be approximately the same.
Justine, do you mean during construction?
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, during construction, and then yeah, obviously back when you're finished, it should be there. Although my question about back when you're finished is, will any of these folks lose square footage outside of, I mean, 'cause their decks out there, right? Or are you planning to build that? Because the wall is probably thicker, right? To be a true flood barrier wall. Will any excess depth, if that's the right word, of the wall, will that encroach onto their patios or will it encroach onto the public space?
I think we're still, I was gonna say, we're still doing survey work to determine the exact amount of the space behind the wall. I think that's a future answer we would have, just because of the fact that there's still some unknowns here. But I think that in terms of during construction, I think that we obviously would have to have vibration monitoring in place, noise monitors, obviously, and obviously monitor like air quality and things like that. All those things would be outlined in our EIS, obviously, but those are things that we would implement for any of these building adjacent construction areas, just because of the fact that we know that we want to make sure that there are no impacts and we want to monitor as construction progresses.
Makes sense, but it's going to be a huge impact on the folks, especially the folks facing the water in these buildings, certainly the first floor, but maybe up higher, just in terms of
Far more, Justine, if you go first to fourth, because you're removing all the trees that line and shade the apartments up to the
yeah,
fourth.
there you go. You're taking all that too. Yeah, but giving you a view, but that's not
When you come
nice.
back, Claudia, would you be able to have a rendering, if you're showing what this is now, of what it would potentially look like. You know, so you could see it side by side in particular.
Yeah.
To understand, for example, if you're walking along the upper path, are you still going to be able to see out to the Statue of Liberty from this vantage point? Will the fencing that's along the water be changed? You said replaced in kind, but does that mean a different design? Will there be any conversations? I had it once with Gwen that on 9/11, nobody thinks of it now because we don't need to, but on 9/11, people were getting emergency evacuated off the island everywhere. So not only North Cove, not only South Cove, but all along in here. And so the question that I'm asking is, was there a look, if you're replacing in kind the esplanade and the fencing on the water side, of creating any opportunities that it would be able to be unlocked and moved to allow people to egress out for other emergency evacuations? I know it's not a big conversation now, but it is something that
Right, may want to, no, I know that you brought this up before. I don't think right now we have any plans to replace the C-rail as it currently exists, short of regular repair and paint. I mean, I think that we're doing full platform replacement areas, which is very discreet. That's a different situation. In terms of whether it would be able to be open and unlocked, I don't think we've looked at that, but.
I know we've discussed it before. I'm not sure that here would be an appropriate spot in any event, but I have certainly taken to heart the suggestion for additional accommodation for boats to be brought up for potential evacuation purposes. And we are continuing to look at that. I mean, we had discussed it fairly recently with respect to the North Esplanade. And I think that we will be looking at various points where, especially where we're not out beyond the pier headline, and we can potentially create an enhanced way for boats to access the Esplanade for potential evacuation purposes.
I appreciate that, because I will tell you that from 9/11, all the people who left from the towers and from the office buildings who came to the water, they were either sent at the end of every block, either to North Cove or South Cove, and any boat that pulled up along the side, people just hopped the rail. So it seems like an unusual location, but it was used. And then I have questions what Justine was saying about that privacy wall. And what you introduced in one of the other notes was that there are places that you are looking at the wall at a lower height, but with a wave barrier, more or less, to call it. And
The
so
deployable, like a half height. Oh, the recurve, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the thing that bends over.
So the question is, with the height of the current existing wall that's there, would it be possible to rebuild the wall to the same height with the recurve to do the same kind of work that you're looking at? So the wall is not any higher. That's one, obviously.
But before you go on to that, it makes a difference to some of the residents because they currently have a view that one more foot might drastically.
Right, obliterate the view that they have.
Correct.
We are looking, I might defer to Joe on this one. He's much more well-versed in recurve than I am, but we have been looking at recurve on these walls also. Joe, I don't know if you want to jump in, but we have looked at not just at that gateway location, but we've been looking at it across the flood barrier system.
So
yeah, this is definitely an area where we're looking to implement the recurve for that very reason, to keep that wall as close to that existing height as we can.
So you're saying it would never be lower, but it could be potentially maybe at existing height?
It could maybe be not so high.
Whatever. I mean, there's engineering considerations specifically around that height, and the recurve helps you lower it, and we're going to lower it. We don't want to bring it down any lower than it is, because that's what's there now, but we're going to use the recurve to get it as close as we can to what's there now. And I
Awesome.
And let me say,
Yeah, we've
okay, we
talked-
gotta
we've
stop
talked a lot
asking
about this,
questions,
like,
because I know some of the folks in the room have to go, so let's let them finish. Sorry.
Yeah, and sorry,
It's
I
my
just want to
fault.
add
I'm
this,
asking a lot of questions. But I
and I
want to be
keep talking
respectful of
too,
your
which is
time.
fine. But no, but I just want to say that, like, I just want to say that also we really took that into consideration, the fact that, right, like a foot or even if 6 inches could really completely change what someone has made a significant investment in. So I think we really had a lot of conversations about that internally, about how we could achieve this. I'm sorry, Rachel, go right ahead.
No, yeah, it's just to that point, we are really focused on keeping the wall as low as possible in any way that we can get the engineering to work. It's a priority for.
So, and then here's a really funny question for you. When you're looking even at this intersection, the benches are highly valued, especially in the summertime. So where you often hear communities arguing over how many parking spots are there, I'm looking at the parking spots for people in the new designs versus what we have now. We are very seating oriented, especially at the nodes here. Yes, there's a big open area. I wouldn't say it's wasted space, because if you've ever had 5 dogs and 5 people standing there, it's pretty full. You know what I mean, without any other obstructions or other things. And I do think that the stairs that go up to the upper room, people have sat on, the benches people sit on. So it's a question when we're looking at the new designs and they're very lush. How many parking spots and bench spots do we have? Are we increasing or decreasing that? And what are you considering?
Tammy, are you talking about the benches along the water or
Not the
water
water,
line?
because they're not touching
They're
the
not-
water side.
So the raised part along
The
that.
raised
walkway.
part on the
Yeah.
left and in the middle, because we have seating in the middle or places that people, you know, there are places, there is seating, and that's part of what is so valued, even though you're looking at a winter shot right now, because there's nothing on the trees. Even when it's lush, you can sit and look at the views. It has an open feeling. You have placemaking, you know you're on the island.
You meet people there, you congregate.
Right, and so that's one of the things that I see in the new designs, there's a lot more nookies areas, kind of like little nooks and little zigzags and things. But how does that relate to open vistas and views, which is what we've heard throughout? And that would be something when you come back to be able to represent that, how that works with circulation. You know, is Betty gonna be able to come down the ramp and see out, or is she gonna have to go around and get on a pathway to be able to see the views that are there? If you're in a, you know, what happens, what's your view when you're coming down that way? Because that's one of the things that concerns me greatly with every plan that I see, it with the walls and the elevations and the beautiful horticulture that we know BPCA does so amazingly on. It does seem to be closing everything in, giving it a far more, in the places that we have a lush environment, the trees are coming down, and bushes are going there, and walls. In the places that we have open space, that we have open views that help you place set yourself, it doesn't seem, I can't get the sense.
Sure,
And I know.
I have a very great response to that, but I'm thinking that we're starting to get really short on time.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I'll tell you on a high level that we are looking at replacing benches on a one-to-one basis. We are looking at maintaining the existing proportions of the path. The one thing that we noticed in the design is that there's a separation between the garden that is by the current privacy wall, and then you have a fence and you have a path. And so what the intention of the design is kind of threefold. First, we want to maintain the existing proportions that are there now. We're meandering the path to discourage faster traffic, and also so that we can work around as many of the existing tree root walls as possible.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the sentence about you are meandering the path to make things move more quickly.
No, slower. It's a
good.
traffic calming. Yeah, so this is
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, so this is, yeah, it's meant to slow traffic down. And then the second part is because we have this 15-foot offset of the FBS, we're looking to maximize as much new tree planting as we can within that meander. So those are some of the considerations. We are starting to look at view corridors and places where people can kind of park, Along the Esplanade right now, you do have a couple little rooms that are set back closer to the privacy wall. And we've looked at taking the same proportion of those rooms and creating similar rooms where we can along that secondary path. We actually have an internal presentation that's pretty much dedicated to this study. So it is something that we were very interested in maintaining because it does help to maintain the feel of the space.
Hey, Justine, it's Gwen. I'm concerned about time as well. Can
No, you
we
got to get
maybe
going. So let's,
finish?
no more questions now until they finish. So let's keep going. But thank you. I know.
We can keep going. We'll go to the last node and then I'll hand it over to Lee to talk about, I guess we have two more nodes. So the middle node, we can keep go forward one slide. The middle node is what we call the conversation room. We were inspired by a couple different things here in the design. The first is we wanted to provide a small scale gathering space that's kind of on the same scale as what the upper room has. That is also fully accessible so that anybody can kind of walk into this more enclosed space. We were thinking of some of the existing programs that happen now and how we can start to accommodate them. This could be a great place for like a poetry reading or a very small scale concert, or if you're having a classroom outside to come gather around within this space. The geometry is also working to save as many trees as we can within the space as well. Go to the next slide, please. So this is starting to look at the existing geometry and how you have this kind of ring of the pink granite that encloses the hex pavers in the space as you come out. We'll go to the next slide. I'm speaking kind of.
All those benches seem to be missing from the slide 2 ago that you showed.
So there is this new bench that is here right now that is quite lengthy. And then there's also benches along the secondary path that you can't see now within the rendering. And so this is looking within the space. We're also looking at ways to integrate wheelchair seating into the space as well. We like this space because we think that it does provide some really nice views out to the water.
And where exactly is that? It's confusing to me. Like
You're looking up Rutger Place.
Right, you're.
This is Rector.
Place behind
Yeah.
that?
That's
Yeah.
correct. If you see the little key map,
So where's the entrance?
the
Right,
entrance is right in the middle behind it.
The wall stop to the right.
Right, so there are no more benches when you first come in on Rector. There are benches now that are right at the entrance. So you've moved all of the seating further into the walkway. And there's no more seating around by the entrance. So it's only in the quote event space.
We're still, so on the dry side of the wall, we're still studying what's happening there, especially in light of the request for larger openings.
Does Rector Gate continue to exist in the back part of this photograph? Rector Gate?
Yes, Rector Gate is going to be protected in place.
But you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
There, the seating that's both on the dry side and when you first walk in, that's there. And then exactly, so none of the curvature seatings that are all gone. It's on the curvatures. As you come in off of, like, that's West Bay.
You're suggesting, Tammy, that there should be seating along.
Because not everybody wants to be in the public seating. There's more quiet seating. You know, there's always been off the path seating.
There's a quiet space to sit along as you're coming down. So yeah, I know what you're saying, Tammy.
That's what the quiet room is, the upper room. That's what.
Right.
They're all, the seating that I see is all within, and all the seating that is gone is, like, if Eric was rolling with his kid and says, I don't want to be on the Esplanade in the pathway, better seat.
So that's what we're talking about. Tammy, they really need to leave, so let's let them finish because I know that people have questions.
Do you want to back up one slide? So this is looking at this is actually the West Thames. This is not the Rector Place. So this is moving to the final node. In this node, the program is responding to the neighboring Montessori school. We also realized that in order to save the trees that are on the backside of the Esplanade or in the middle row, which are actually quite healthy and nice trees, we needed a sort of organic geometry to accommodate them. And so we are looking at proposing what's called a nature play, and this would be just an installation that people and children are able to interact with. This would be kind of a shaded, small microclimate. We are keeping the main entrances on the kind of calmer paths because we know that this may be a child-heavy area. So we don't want any of the kids able to roll off into the faster traffic along the Esplanade. And so it's there would be kind of a series of logs and installation that kids could play in with seats and people to sit around and watch. You can go to the next slide, please. So this is looking at the current view at West Thames right now. Next slide, please. Left and right. And then this is looking at the nature play. So this is looking a little bit farther on the wet side of the gate and down into the nature play area. And then you can see the water through the trees. And then I'll pass it over to Lee to cover Reach 7.
Thank you. All right, tell me how quickly or how slowly I should go, because I know we don't have a lot of time, but.
We don't limit your time.
Okay.
Your time is your own. As
We,
long
we,
as
we,
you
there are
are here,
several of us that have to
To leave,
leave.
especially folks in the room. Yeah.
So quick. I know that there's a part of this that I know that Justine is going to be particularly interested in. So let's make sure we get to that.
Area and the various alternatives.
Yes, I'll do my best to balance. So we're looking at the South Cove. Next slide, please. A few of the things that we've heard over multiple meetings and at the site walks, people really appreciate the forest walk area of the South Cove, the Honey Locust Grove, the quiet, contemplative character of the South Cove in general, and specifically the seating along the water's edge, the importance of preserving views from the street ends to the river, like you were mentioning in Reach 6 as well. And then there was some interest in maintaining and if possible, if there is space, expanding circulation areas to avoid any pinch points. Thank you. Looking at the plan. So I think you've seen this before, but I do want to emphasize a couple of things. One is that along the water's edge on the north side of the South Cove, so to the right of the image, we are introducing a new, more lushly planted area that is similar in character to that Honey Locust Grove to try and extend that experience and add some new trees to the project. In this area, the FBS follows to the south of the Regatta condominium, follows the property line essentially between the private courtyard and the public esplanade. You can see the opening at the end of South End Avenue that we're really trying to maximize, because those views we've heard are really kind of important and valuable, and you want to have that diagonal view to the harbor. At third place and second place, we're showing slightly smaller gates. One thing you'll notice here is there's a different type of deployable gate at each of the street ends. What we're trying to do is really customize the approach of the opening to the conditions at that particular street end so that we're minimizing the impact on the street end conditions and maximizing planting and maximizing views. I can get into that in more detail if you would like later on. We have views for each of the street ends. The one last thing I'll note on the plan is that for the Riverwatch building and 50 Battery Place, the FBS is just offset off of the existing privacy wall. So in this case, the privacy wall remains in place and we're building the wall as close as we can outside of it on the water side.
And just bearing in mind that like we want to make sure that we're not creating a void that creates a problem or like a nuisance situation in any location throughout the project, if there's an offset.
Is the privacy wall higher or lower than the new wall?
In front of 50 Battery, so in front of 50 Battery Place, it's the same height as the privacy wall. In front of Riverwatch, it's lower.
And you have to do the second wall because it's just not, the wall that exists now is just not thick enough, correct? And not strong enough.
That's right. As Rachel was explaining earlier, we have the same issues here with.
Will you remove the privacy wall then?
No. So the privacy wall here retains the private terraces. And so if keeping it and building the FBS wall in front of it allows us to really limit our impact to those.
Because we're
private
so far
terraces.
set back from the water here, because we have the grade change from the lower level of South Cove up to the top.
Interesting. Thank you. Go ahead.
We go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is a view looking from, it's kind of a bird's eye view from, let's say, a 6-story apartment in the Regatta, looking down toward the lower Esplanade. That area remains unchanged. We are still looking at opportunities for in-water habitat enhancement features. And you can see in the foreground the new planting along the edge. Next slide.
That does it.
Yeah.
The views.
Yeah, okay. Keep going. So this is the existing view from the Regatta looking out toward the harbor. You can see the corner pergola that we will talk about in a little bit more detail later, and the existing trees here. I will note the latest arborist report tells us that row of trees are in either poor or fair condition. The one that we're looking at here, the skinnier one, is actually recommended for removal. The next view shows the proposed condition with a lot more planting, but you can see what we're trying to do is create that critical opening so that you can still have the view of the harbor, the Statue of Liberty, and balanced with more planting and additional trees.
Is there a reason that you chose trees that would be larger to block more of the view versus the narrow trees that are there?
So the trees that are there are challenging for a number of reasons. They start to limb. You can see that in this view really well. Very low, very close to the ground. And so they're not really canopy trees. They take up a lot of space in and of themselves. What we thought was the right approach here is to try and create something that's a little bit more dense and lush. Of course, it'll look different in winter and summer. If there is a strong preference to, maximize views, we can look at other trees that are more like street trees, like canopy trees. But we are thinking of this area as something that is a little bit different from the rest of the Esplanade, that isn't as doesn't have that thoroughfare experience, that is slower movement, more immersive. So that was guiding us in the planting strategy. But we're very much, open to thoughts and suggestions.
Because I would say that this is a thoroughfare. People bike, ride, run, and walk here. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's the only way actually for the bicyclists to get back toward South End Avenue.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not a good place to extend the planting.
As I will say, and I say this as a cyclist, my preference would be to encourage people to dismount here as they turn.
Yeah, we have.
Good luck with that. They don't, but yes, agreed.
So the FBS wall here removes all of the benches that you want?
Yes, we are reintroducing benches though.
Right. Because we have to replace that. We're again following the existing wall. We have to replace it. So we're replacing, and we're still working on the seating here. We've been going back and forth on that for a bit as well internally, just to figure out what works best.
And the wall treatment, is that going to be the same as the Gateway wall treatment, or is this one going to be different? The Gateway restaurant wall was.
This is slightly different. We're still looking at deployables, but if you want to go to the next slide, we can show you sort of what, I think it's the next slide, right? Maybe the slide after that.
Well, I think
maybe it's that one. I'm sorry. If you can go back to that, I apologize. We're looking at sort of, we have to meet a very significant wall height here, and there's also a grade change. So we looked at a couple different, we're looking at a slide up deployable here, so that looking out, you would maintain similar views. You would also have air circulation within this space, because you have this sort of awkward, it's the wall is there, but then you have the arcade space for the building. It's like there's a lot of different things here. It's been a little bit challenging to plan around in that respect. So we're looking at a pull up, almost like a slide up, I wouldn't say I was gonna say like a Yanko, but it's really like a slide up deployable here that would meet the wall height. So that way we have a half height solid wall. And I said, then we'd have seating in front of it. It's just we're trying to work out how the seating makes sense with the wall and like the flip up, like the massing. We want to make sure it doesn't look too bulky, I think, is what we're trying to avoid.
And are you raising the walkway at all?
Which walkway?
The walkway.
Where the people are standing, right? Yeah, that.
Yeah, because it looks like you don't have a ramp anymore that
No,
goes
no.
down.
That stays the same. So the retaining wall between that ramp and the upper pathway, the upper esplanade, is gonna have to be reconstructed, but the ramp to the lower esplanade and the wooden deck that is now accessible are gonna remain the same.
So looking at this picture, it looks those between the family on top and the people taking pictures on the bottom, it looks like steps. Is that intentional?
So the, on the wall itself, you mean?
Yes.
No, those are not, well, I understand they may look like steps,
Yeah.
but they're not intended to be steps.
Okay.
What we're looking at for this area, we thought this would be a really interesting opportunity to kind of introduce something that's a little bit more textured, maybe in relation to the in-water habitat. Have vines climb along that wall, so it's not as kind of.
Okay, it doesn't look like a straight wall in this picture. And
It is intended to be a straight wall, I promise you.
okay. And in this picture, similar to the ones with Gateway, because you're making the buildings very generic
Mhm.
in the pictures, we can't tell what it will look like. Because you've got these generic kind of.
Oh, the white, sort of like the white
Right.
building.
Yeah,
Okay.
that does, it does nothing for me, it does nothing for
Right
any.
here at the Regatta, it's a little bit different. We have the
It's
colors,
slightly
but
better.
it's still, but we need to, that's something we can work on from like a rendering perspective.
And yeah, because it really makes a difference.
And it orients
for
people as to
people's
where-
point of view.
Yeah.
I would just say that, while I appreciate the bulk of trees that you're trying to add at the end there to create a habitat, it is a place that runners, walkers, it's a good place for gathering.
Mhm.
You know, the Joshua Tree gazebo area is really,
Yeah, maybe we move to the pergola, because we did hear at the public meeting that this is the street ends, but again, I want to be mindful to get to your point about the pergola. Because we had heard that people had a really significant interest in keeping the pergola as is for some of the reasons you talked about, Tabby. So we were looking at options for that. This is the South End Avenue closure. This is the flip up deployable that we're looking at here.
are those boulders that you have there in the proposed?
Those what, Tammy? I couldn't understand you.
At the water's edge?
Are there more trees removed at the end of South End Avenue and it looks like there are boulders there?
The trees at the end of South End Avenue, closer to where we are, closer to the view, are removed because we are
Right,
introducing the
closer to the
FPS wall.
cul-de-sac at the end of South End Avenue.
Exactly. Further out, I'll have to check the drawings. We may be adding a couple of new boulders to kind of catch the grading there and protect the existing trees so that they're not impacted.
Because what I'm having trouble is jonesing on where we're going is, if you can see on the existing on the top, right? The sidewalk slopes down, so there's, it's a curb cut at the very end, so you can actually just slowly roll up to the sidewalk to get to the restaurant there. And what you show on the bottom is, and that also gives you, there's a solid looking out position that you have there at the very end. And what you're showing on the bottom is actually walling off the right portion of the space. So you don't actually have that continuous view out, and you've narrowed the view corridor to a much more tiny length, almost to just the opening of where the staircase is.
The view, you mean on the far side? You're not talking about the gate itself?
On the Regatta side, you're talking.
On the Regatta side, this is a 50-foot gate.
Here, you can't see anything here.
That is the FBS wall on the right. You're right.
That's what I was saying, that we have to meet like a very significant height there. That's the height of the flood barrier.
And you can't bring it further back towards the buildings.
Right now, it is
Be in line.
along the property line. So bringing it closer to the building would mean bringing it into the private property and into the
leasehold of
yeah,
the building.
sorry, into the leasehold and into the cafe seating area.
Hi, guys. I have to leave in a few minutes. I'd like to get to the pergola so that we can talk about that a little bit if next couple of minutes.
So why don't we skip to the pergola and then come back to the street ends, if that's okay?
Yes.
All right, so corner pergola, we're looking at that focus area in pink. We were looking at some of the existing conditions to understand, what's there. There are some circulation challenges between the existing pergola structure, between those poles and the existing sea rail. We do have the open views to the harbor. Next slide, please. And so these are the first two options that we studied. On the left is what we just presented and what we had in the public meeting, the expanded planting area. And then on the right, we're pulling that planting area away from the pergola to maintain that existing condition.
Keeping the pergola would be preferred.
So one of the challenges we noticed with the pergola is we have, if you're going around it and you want to go to that accessible ramp, you have a 4-foot opening and a 5-foot opening that's right up against the bench. So you're actually quite limited in circulation. What we tried to do with the planting is pull away from the sea rail to have 10.5 feet and then kind of continue with the width of the ramp that goes down for the 7-foot light. Next, please. We're going to go through a series of views here for the two options. So this is a view from the Esplanade looking south with the existing pergola to remain. And then the next view is with the proposed new planting, still the kind of view toward the water is maintained. Next, please. This is looking from the ramp that goes down toward New Jersey. You can see the pergola is actually a little bit in your view corridor if you're looking out. Next view with the new planting out.
New Jersey.
So you all know what I think. Thank you for even coming up with the plan to save the pergola. And I think that's so much more open and nice. But
we have
keep
one
going.
more. We have one more thing to show you, Justine.
Thank you.
This is just another couple of views looking up along the regatta with the pergola and with the planting. And then final view looking down the ramp. So you can see the circulation challenges there. If you're going along the sea rail, it's just 4 feet. On the other side, you're in front of somebody sitting on the bench.
You're kind of making an assumption that people actually use the lower path at this point. Not as many people actually do. And I don't think it would encourage people with having the giant plantings in the middle to separate top and bottom unless you have purposeful benches and maybe a narrower planting.
One thing I do want to call out in the previous one, the existing benches, no backs and no armrests. So it does offer us an opportunity to.
Can you get to the third option, please?
Sure. Can you keep going, please? We can skip this one. So what we wanted to show is a hybrid approach that allows us to still expand the planting, add 15 new trees in this area, but reintroduce elements of the existing pergola. We understood from the conversation with Justine, with Jeff as well, that there is some sentimental value to the structure there, that people like it. And so we can flip through these. We're trying to kind of find the best of both worlds, really, with the expanded planting, but with the pergola structure, with new, fully inclusive seating with backs, potentially armrests, wider circulation, so you can do that kind of sweeping movement to the lower level. But trying to find a compromise based on our latest conversation with you all.
Why is there giant push to have a giant planting area here.
I think we looked at it and but we looked at it as an opportunity to add more planting when across the project, there are areas where we are losing significant tree canopy. I think we saw it as an opportunity. We've heard a lot, as you guys probably know, about we're losing lots of trees. People really appreciate this idea of like a lush planted areas. So I think this is an opportunity where we wanted to take advantage of that and be able to provide more planting in an area that has some, but could have more.
I mean, as someone who's made that point, I think that, yes, greenery is nice, but there are aspects of this existing public space that are nice and enjoyed that are not green. And the pergola area is one of them, and it's not just the pergola itself, but as you can see from these renderings, the vistas are a lot nicer with the pergola preservation than either this one, the hybrid, and certainly a lot nicer than the full greenery. I mean, I have to say that whichever option is chosen, I'm sure we'll all love it, but there are certain things that we like about the existing thing there that I think are worth preserving.
Yeah.
As a broader point, it applies also to Esplanade Plaza. I see the greenery has crept into Esplanade Plaza pretty significantly in the renderings. And maybe that's fine, but the point I wanted to make about Esplanade Plaza, it's not just the volleyball court. It's that huge plaza that allows for public events. And I'm sure you've seen when they actually play volleyball there. It's not just on the court. There's all sorts of people waiting to play and practicing and all the.
Right, it's a large unprogrammed space for.
That people use. And so.
And you can watch it from the playground up above.
There's definitely a balance to greenery, and I appreciate lots of what's being done here. And of course, everything in Battery Park City in terms of greenery is always done very, very well. But that's not the only value. And I would not over-sacrifice things for that value. Just speaking personally for myself, I like the preserving pergola option best.
Agreed. I like this one too. I agree with you, Jeff.
I think that's, again, like helpful feedback and what we were looking for when we were doing this, undertaking this feasibility, is that's the kind of feedback, again, that we wanted to hear, because we had heard, like, let's maintain it. Again, we had shown various versions, I think, or differing versions of more planting here before. So again, hearing, including, I think, back in June. So again, like hearing feedback that you know,
I just think that the pergola preservation version does look like an improvement over the existing condition. I kind of like those weird trees along there, but I like them because they're kind of funky.
Yeah, exactly. So it's nice to have a little bit more green there, but I like what Tammy said about having whether they're thinner trees or, like, would you call them, street trees, where the foliage is more on the top than it is on the closer to the ground. Because what I see, I feel like I feel like it's almost choking the other way, because it's too green on a space that's really not. You want the water. You want to be able to come out and come across. This to me is a great compromise. Keeping the pergola. I don't think anybody cares about no backs or armrests. People sit there, people relax there. It's a nice place to come and sit and relax. And as Tammy said, even with the pinched circulation, people don't go down that way. That's not where they're walking. Because half the time, so this is fine.
It's kind of nice to have it.
It's kind of nice. I mean, the thing, I would even say that I think yes, I don't want to get rid of my trees. I am like miserable about the trees that we're losing wherever we're losing them. However, in this area in particular, having vistas and seating is really critical.
Yes,
Because-
exactly.
And if you go down there on a cool summer night, there are people everywhere. And so I think that you're actually taking up more real estate with plantings here and taking away seating space and vistas is not as great of an ad as potentially adding more trees in wherever you're taking them out.
Okay.
Because wherever you're taking trees out, you're taking out trees that are 4 or 5 stories tall that people in their apartments use for heating and cooling and shade and light, right? So now you're looking at, I mean, it'll be 30 years before the trees grow up 4 or 5 stories again, if you're even able to put. But wherever you're taking out a tree to put another tree somewhere around there is gonna be far more important than clustering trees down this end.
Okay, again, like that's helpful feedback. I want to be mindful of time because we have to go, so I didn't leave people some questions. I know we still haven't talked about the street ends per se. That hasn't necessarily changed.
Can you go to those real quick?
Sure, but then we really have to like wrap up. I'm sorry, but we're all a bit pressed for time today. But again, well, you know, you have this presentation. We're happy if you have questions afterwards. So, you know, responds. If there's clarifications you need, obviously, you know how to reach me and Nick and Glenn and everybody, so feel free. But yeah, maybe we'll just go to that second and third place to just reinforce how we're looking at different sort of fits for each one.
Do you have first place as well and how it connects directly?
First place is technically part of the South project, so we
Right.
do not have it in this presentation.
Are you talking specifically about the tie-in?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not as part of this, but we are working on the tie-in currently of how precisely it ties into the South project. So that's something we'll come back with. It is in development though.
Okay. So go ahead, because I know Michelle Askren has had her hand up, and also Marianne Parenti had her hand up. Put it down again, but I think she does want to have a question. So keep going, and we'll get to you guys in the attendee section. So thank you for your patience.
I mean, I think from a presentation perspective, we're kind of done. So if there are questions, we should definitely.
So second and first?
Sure.
Second and first.
I think we have the
So
same
this-
like this, it's stacked similar to this, so we can go
Yeah.
through those really quickly.
Okay, so this is third place. We're looking from third place toward the water. So what you can see in the foreground is we are essentially rebuilding the existing street end condition as is. You can see a little bit further back the introduction of the FBS wall. You can also see that the wall here is a 16.5 elevation, which is 3.25 feet high. The column that catches the gate is 1 foot higher than the wall itself.
Would the 3 stones be replaced? Come back in?
The bollards,
yes,
yeah, the
yes.
security, any of the street security measures that exist would have to be put back in place.
And what you're showing on the top and the bottom is existing condition today, not any of your proposed, because if you add the greenery, as you showed from the last one, then there would be no view looking straight back. Correct? Or do I have that wrong?
No, this is the proposed.
This
is the
actually
proposed
shows
with
the-
full
Yeah,
plan.
this isn't the pergola area. This isn't this is 1 block south.
See, the greenery area would.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
Just as this is summer and the top one is winter.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Right, the next slide is second place. So here we're looking from the direction of the Honey Locust Grove toward the passageway between the 2 buildings. So here we have a sliding gate that slides to the north side. And then on the opposite side of the wall would be the existing condition of the street end to remain or to be restored.
And again, I'm gonna put my comment in about the number of benches that are missing.
So
When it
we're,
takes
as
back in
Rachel
this.
mentioned, we're doing a 1-to-1.
But we'll,
And the art is missing.
This one is.
that's
temporary,
that's
right?
where Resonating Bodies is currently. That is gonna go back to Wagner Park. So that wouldn't stay there. The same thing for Eyes, which is at South Cove.
And
They would go back to
There'd
Wagner.
be no replacement of any kind of art.
Like
Like, or new art.
That's like TBD. Like, we haven't really talked about it, but that might be something in the future.
My concern will remain about the seating, as I said, if you take a look at it, the amount of benches and seating.
Just, I think we have time for like one question before we really have to go. So
Let's get
I don't want
Michelle
to pick and
Ashton.
choose somebody,
Michelle,
but I do
unmute yourself. And then also unmute Marian Parenti, because I know she had questions. I think she's still there. But go ahead, Michelle. Michelle, can you unmute her?
Yep, done.
You're on. Okay, so Michelle, do you have to do, what does she have to do? Unmute herself now?
Yeah.
Okay, while she's trying to figure it out, can you find Marianne Parenti? Make sure she's still there as an attendee, because I know she had her hand up before. She texted me she has a question. Yeah, she's still there. So if you see her there, okay, Marianne, go ahead. Ask your question.
I raised this concern at the June meeting, and I don't see any thing that's really anything different. My concern is about the new seating, which look like a series of concrete slabs. My concern is twofold. One is those concrete slabs without any raised handles at all intermittently on those concrete slabs is going to turn our Battery Park City into skateboard city. And I'm concerned about that. Also, in connection with senior and disabled seating, it's very difficult for them to get up from just a concrete slab or to sit on a concrete slab for some period of time. I want you to take into consideration those concerns and modify that design throughout. It's throughout all of your reaches. And I haven't seen anything differently since June. So that's my comment.
this hasn't
Thank you.
changed. I mean, that's a fair point that you're making, and we haven't changed this significantly since June. It's a work in progress. So I think that we've heard a lot about seating that we can address. And I think we don't want to create, I don't think we want to create like lots of hard concrete seating, given the fact that we have a lot of wood seating here. And I know it's what we're also introducing in Wagner Park. So I think we want to be consistent throughout. But yeah, I mean, I think it's something that's currently, not to speak for Rachel or Lee, but that's currently under development. And I agree, like, we don't want to, we heard that a lot too during the self-design process about like skateboarders and people deciding to do like bike tricks on flat surfaces. So we want to avoid that also.
That makes sense, because if there was a way to keep and reuse the benches that exist now.
Yeah, I think we're looking at salvage for sure across the site. So I think where we can reuse, we want to reuse. We may have more material that we can reuse on site, but we definitely want to utilize that to the greatest extent possible.
One of the nice things about what they're all talking about is the ability to have individualized groups versus everybody sharing one long thing.
Yeah. It's a built-in separation, but yet you're still together.
Right. It gives people privacy if they want it, but it also doesn't make you isolate yourself. I'm sorry, Justine,
You really have to go. Okay, one thing to say, I just want to echo what Jeff said about by the Esplanade area. I'm sorry that I'm going to call it the volleyball court because I can't think of it. But way back at the beginning, the way that the renderings are put together, it is too much incursion onto the open space. It does not seem as if there's going to be enough open space for the uses of that area that are currently kind of treasured. Yes, the volleyball court, but also the gatherings, the square dance. I mean, the Battery Park City Authority does it. The square dances and whatever else they do. You're not going to be able to do it with all the plantings and everything that's permanently there. So I would seriously consider that. And then down south, like I said, I love the option with keeping the pergola as is and then making more green space. That's lovely, but try to open the views. And then one more question, and then you'll have to answer it now because I know you have no time. But the restaurant in the Regatta, so it used to be Miramar, now it's Hot Pot, I think. I'm not clear that they're going to have any view of the water. So I'm not clear that they're not, but I think that's going to be a problem for that business because the biggest draw to that space is the views of the water. So I would want to know more about it. And again, if you don't have that now, that's fine.
It's something that I will say that without getting into too great a level of detail, it is something that we've been looking at and been conscious of when we look at this location, that there is will feature more likely to not be a restaurant space there. So how do we maximize, or to the greatest extent possible, given the height of the flood barrier system we have to build, maintain views there? which is why we went with the half height approach, but we're still looking at that spacing. It's been, I think, probably the thing we've talked about in our internal meetings the most about how we do that. So it's still an ongoing conversation for sure. I think it's going to continue to evolve.
That makes sense. That
And
is
as
an
far as
issue in
Esplanade
Gateway
Plaza,
Restaurant.
and as far as-
Can we just hear what Michelle Aspian has to say?
Yes.
Because she
I
was
just-
so
can I just-
patient.
Can I just finish one thing about Esplanade Plaza first, Justine, to address your other question? What we'll do is we'll take a look at current programming space and future proposed programming space to get a sense of square footage there to see if there is a significant reduction, or maybe just visually it looks like there's one, but there isn't. So we'll get back to you on that. And yes, but this has to be the last question. I'm sorry.
Michelle, it would be the last question. Thank you so much, guys. Michelle, go ahead.
Am I unmuted now?
You are. We hear you.
Yes.
There's way too much that I wanted to say, but I'm just going to ask you if we can. We had asked for renderings that show a more realistic view of what it will look like the day of, rather than in 25 years, because
yes,
these renderings are beautiful, but they look like 20 years from now, so they're not realistic. A viewpoint.
We
asking
did
for
hear that, Michelle.
Right. And
Yeah, we did hear that.
the second thing I just want to reiterate is we had also asked, because it is really actually quite difficult, even while we're being spoken to and looking at these things, it's difficult to really conceptualize holistically what this is going to look like. And again, if it's possible to make some sort of 3D models, it would really be very helpful for all of us, I think. And then the rest I'll just write up because it's too much that I want to say. But those are the two things that I think are most important, so that people really understand what we're seeing and what we're going to be living with for the next, however long. Okay, that's really very important.
I don't know if you can hear me, Michelle, but we did hear your request for like future sort of current year as opposed to future year renderings, which we're working on.
Okay.
In
great.
terms of model, we've heard everybody's request for a model. We sort of need to do a little bit more design development, I think, before we develop a larger scale model, just because things may change. It's not something
I just think for the
very clear. No, I'm just explaining that like we plan, I think, to do that at the point, but not at this particular phase of design.
Well, I think it needs to be done before it's a done deal kind of thing, because people in the community.
Well, yeah, but no, understood. It's not, right. I'm not saying we're gonna do it when we're at 100% design. It's like, oh, hi, but I think that this is not right now. There's still a lot of things that are in flux for this. So we're just trying to.
I'll save the rest for just written comments to you guys. Thank you so much.
Michelle, thank you for your patience too. I know you were waiting for a long time.
I've been listening.
Okay, folks, I promised you'd be out by 8. I lied, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having us.
This.
Like I said, happy
This
New
was
Year.
great.
I know we didn't say it, but thank you so much.
You all too. And thanks for your patience.
Yes, happy New Year, guys. And thank you for the feedback too. I think it was helpful. I think the purpose of this was that we wanted to get feedback on these nodes and also on this pergola. So thank you for that.
Yep, and we'll send in more stuff too. And I invite you to come back in a few months and let's do this again because this is so helpful.
And when you are not first on the agenda, know that, you don't need to show up at 6. If you're not first on the agenda, if you need to be first on the agenda because you have a deadline of 8 p.m., please let us know because we'll make sure you're first and we could.
My problem,
have
Tammy,
to
was
Port
that
Authority to move them later.
No,
We could-
understood.
we could-
Yeah, the scheduling
yeah.
got a little janky. So
I
Okay,
apologize for that.
Have a nice evening. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Say more about here.
All right, so next on the agenda, if you don't mind pulling it up, Zach, so I can see what's next.
Item on the agenda. 3 of 6.
Yeah.
It's 8:30.
South Battery Park City construction, didn't we do that?
No. South Battery Park City construction. Katie, what did you say?
I think we need some folks from the attendee section. I think am I right that it's Rick Fogarty and Kate? Or Kate's on already, so.
Yes, and I know
Am I
Rick
right
is
with- You
on
want Rick as
somewhere.
well or no?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you want Rick as well?
I'm sure if he's.
I think he's there, so I think you're replacing him, yes? Welcome,
yes,
nice
I'll
to
be-
meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you as well. And I know my name, phone number, and email is all over our construction notices and travel advisories that are going out. But I'm also happy to share it in this meeting as well, so that you guys know kind of who to call when you have questions, concerns, or a complaint about the project that's ongoing. Because I know as well, we also sent out a travel advisory about work that's happening this weekend, well, 2 nights, January 4th and January 5th, lasting until 5:30 a.m. on January 6th. And those are some test pits, minor night work happening on Battery Place. So it's I know you guys had some night work back in October that was a little bit bigger. This is a much more contained area. But that email went out to stakeholders. And so you all should have received that. And if you have any questions or concerns, again, I'm happy to answer those and get to the bottom of it.
Lucky your mother. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And like I said, it's nice to meet you, and I'm glad to have your connections. And for the folks who are listening and online, Katie is the one who is going to be taking over, and she's our contact and a community liaison. So for the South Project. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
And anybody have any questions for Katie? I don't see any hands, but I can't see the room.
No. None in here.
None in here. Perfect. So thank you, Katie.
Great. Thank you. And again, you have my number in the email, so happy to hear from you if those questions come up.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And thank you for sending out the regular reports. I think it's every 2 weeks you do an email report. Yes?
Yes. So that means tomorrow you should be receiving the next 2-week look ahead, the construction notice that'll go out to all the stakeholders.
Perfect.
I actually
Thank
have a question. I'm sorry, Justine.
Go ahead.
Katie, quick question for you about the traffic patterns that are on Battery Place from east of the bottom of West Street. Are you going to be closing traffic off again there over the next couple of weeks?
I don't believe so. What we have right now is a travel advisory for the southern portion of Battery Place going west, and that's happening at night. When travel lanes along Battery Place and West Street between Little West Street and West Street might be reduced to 1 lane in each direction between 9 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. tonight and Friday night. That should end Saturday morning at 5:30 a.m.
Are you doing overnight work?
Yes, and that was that was contained in the travel advisory that went out to stakeholders.
Is it loud overnight work?
I'm not sure. I know that night work tends to be can be loud. I know looks like Rick has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. There will be some jackhammering to break through the asphalt. With this work, what happens is if everything we encounter is what we see on the city plans, then hopefully we break through the asphalt very quickly and it's minimal noise. There's been some issues that we've had. That's part of why some of this has gotten moved is things aren't what they seem on the maps. So hopefully that's minimal and it's just a bit of jackhammering just to get through the surface, and then they dig by hand because they can't go in and put a jackhammer into the ground or do extensive digging because it's pretty delicate down there. So yeah, that would be the goal, is to keep it as minimal as possible just to get access.
So Rick, I am hearing some feedback from some of the residential buildings outside of Battery Park City as well as inside about the night work.
Yep.
Obviously 50 Battery Place is miserable because you guys are jackhammering and doing stuff in Wagner Park as early as 7 a.m. Now with the shift from work from home, there's a lot of people who are struggling. Okay, so with that and the overnight work, the noise complaints have shifted from not only 50 Battery, not only the people who live at the bottom of Little West Street, but has also gone down to Battery Place where there's a residential building. So I am asking that you please do a little bit more than an email outreach, but actually talk to the building managers of the 4 buildings that you are closest to that are right across from the work site that are all residential, so they can post notices in their lobbies, because people are going on social media going, we have no idea what's going on. Why is this being allowed? And I appreciate that you have an email list, but
I did reach out and speak with a couple of the building managers on our list. So that's, Leorn at the Ritz-Carlton, making sure that they heard as well. But if you have any additional recommendations for buildings that that you think that would really benefit from a phone call ahead of time as well, please let me know, and I'd be happy to place a call.
And that actually occurred on both circumstances, both times we did that. I spoke with Patrick and Lee. So we have spoken to the building supers about the work that's taking place. Unfortunately, I mean, we have to do the work at night because of traffic impacts. We can't block traffic to the tunnel, and especially along Battery Place. So that's, we're kind of in a catch-22 on that. And I wish there were a better resolution on that, but that's, we're relegated to doing the night work. And just by the nature of it, like I said, jackhammering is this part of it. We prefer to keep it minimal if we can.
Did you go to 17 Battery Place as well?
Who's at 17 Battery Place?
The buildings that are right across from the Battery. The 3 buildings that are at
Yeah,
Battery Place.
we've talked to all the buildings across from Battery Place have been contacted.
Building across the West Side Highway, you're talking about, Tammy, right?
I'm talking, the work for the Southern Battery Park City goes all across the top of the Battery, meaning the Battery, the park. And so I'm talking about the buildings that are directly across from.
Because there's residential
We've
buildings there.
contacted the places that are adjacent to where the work is happening.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Rick, thank you for calling in. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Appreciate
yes,
it.
congratulations. So sorry.
No worries. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Katie and Rick. And yeah, we'll be pestering you, I'm sure. So thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Yeah. And then next on the agenda.
City security update.
Yeah, is Patrick here? Patrick, if you
Yes.
were in person. Oh,
Patrick's chilling.
Patrick is chilling. Damn. Nice to see you in person, even though I'm not there.
You wanna come up here where the speaker is?
I'm sorry?
You wanna come up here where the speaker is?
Really?
Yeah, sorry. I can't hear you.
That's the speaker.
This.
Okay. I guess I got bigger. I need more room. Happy New Year.
You too.
All right, basically I lumped November and December in. So, when you're looking at, if you're looking at the numbers, obviously the Rovies at the bottom of Nick's report, showing the graffiti. Basically, you guys wanted me to talk more instead of just listing the numbers, because the numbers are on the screen on Nick's report. So, the graffiti, we had some incidents in Teardrop Park. The police memorial, somebody did a little heart design on the bench that's in there, putting in initials. So that stuff was removed, but we're still dealing with incidents with that stuff. The homeless, obviously, we're dealing with more aggressive homeless. We're dealing more with the homeless that are more into using drugs. So we're also calling the ambulance for them. We had one person who was nodding with a needle in his arm, so we had him removed. The lost and found property, that of course is always our kids in the ball field leaving stuff behind, like skateboards. If you know anybody that wants a skateboard, come down and see us. The park rules, obviously, Parks has fenced off a lot of the property, the open green space. So a lot of that park rules, the numbers are down, dealing with it. Also, with the park rules, what we were running up against is people all of a sudden putting up like A-frame signs on the Esplanade, advertising their business. We had people looking to sell fruit on the Esplanade. Over by the pier.
To sell
Okay.
what? What? Matt Patrick, I couldn't hear you.
They were selling fruit, looking to
Mangoes.
sell fruit, mangoes and that stuff. I was over by the waterway there, by the Irish Hunger Memorial, and a guy was there with a clothes rack selling London Fog raincoats.
Ooh, how did they fit?
Okay, so we were dealing with this sort of craziness going along. So that was our vendor stuff. And obviously, because of the fencing, a lot of the dog reports are down. But that's pretty much it in general. I guess everybody will know, if they don't already, that a person was discovered deceased in Rector Park today. So everything is pending on the coroner's investigation. That's what we know. There's no other information. And that's that. We're referring everybody to First Precinct. On anything with that, right?
Patrick, I have a question. Did the ambassadors
ahead.
find the person or was it somebody else?
Well, it was actually at Change of Tour. So the day tour going out, saw the police there. So in talking with the police, it was anonymous 911 call. That's all I know.
It was reported by one of the neighbors
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
who did not want to give their name,
right.
but was happy to post it online.
Posted online. Oh, how nice. Yes. Okay. Well, anybody have any questions for Patrick?
I have one quick one about the person in the park. Do we know if that's the person who lived here in one of our buildings? Or do we know anything about the ID?
I have no information on that.
Okay.
Like I said, it's all under investigation by the First Precinct. That's the only information they've given out, that they're waiting for the coroner.
They probably want to let the family know first once they figure it out. But I see that Jay in the audience as an attendee has a question. Anybody else in the room?
We also have someone in the room.
We do. Yeah, go ahead. Call on them, Jeff. I can't see.
Go ahead. The security inside the mall, the Westfield Mall, right? Is that, you get involved with that or is their own?
That's not our security. That's a different security company that works for Brookfield.
No, I was really happy that, they allow homeless to stay inside the mall. So
Jimmy,
close.
talk louder. I can't hear you.
I was really
Please.
happy because I walked around the mall yesterday, there's some bargains, and then there's actually I noticed there's quite a bit of homeless person, sleeping inside the mall, and it was so cold outside, and the security didn't bother them, which is actually kind of nice. They were sitting in the office building in 200 Liberty, also 200 both sides of the mall and the office buildings, and they were just left alone, which is kind of nice. You can tell they're homeless.
You have to be careful on labeling people homeless, because you'd be very surprised who's homeless and who's not.
They look habitat challenge.
I like that expression, habitat challenge.
That's a new one on me.
Justine, you had a question online, I think.
Dude, Jay, you're unmuted. Go ahead, speak.
Hey, Patrick, I got a quick question. Can you guys do anything about those cars double parked in front of River House on North End Avenue?
The only thing that we can do is pick up the phone and call either the First Precinct, whoever's got a sector, to come by and write them a ticket, or it'll be notifying traffic department to write them a ticket. Usually we just walk around, especially Albany, where if the car is occupied, we'll ask them to move.
Okay, because it's getting so bad lately. Not only they double park, a lot of the time they actually triple park. And there are many times when we're trying to just stop in front of our building to, take out the groceries, and we can't.
And that's 6 River Terrace?
It's Two River Terrace.
Two
It's
River
right at the corner, right
Okay.
across the street from the hotel.
Okay, I know what you're talking about, where the, across where the bike racks are in there. Okay.
Right. Yeah, if there's anything you guys can do about it, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Okay.
Anybody else have more questions?
I have one, Patrick.
Miss Tammy?
So when we have people who may be homeless, obviously your team isn't sending them to Brookfield to warm up necessarily, although I do appreciate that they allowed them inside. How often, I saw the homeless numbers that you have on the board, how often do you call and coordinate with the outreach community? And it's BRC, or are you working with?
Well, right now, I'm linked with Downtown Alliance. I was on their meeting in December. Okay, and introduced myself. They introduced themselves and basically let me know of their services. They're actually having another meeting the 25th on this month, which I'll be attending. The problem, what you see on my homeless numbers are those homeless that we interacted with. So if a homeless person's sitting on the bench, they're sitting up and not laying down, you know, like I said, my people, they're not gonna turn around and say, are you homeless? You know, a lot of people dress certain ways, okay? But if they're laying down, we'll turn around and we'll ask them to sit up. If, you know, people don't want to go to a shelter. They don't want help. A lot of times that we're meeting with. And because of the increase that we're seeing, that's the reason why reached out, myself and Nick, and we got connected with the Downtown Alliance to see what we can and can't do. You know, because there's a can and can't.
Our recommendation
involved.
was for you guys to hook up to the Downtown Alliance, because they have the greatest success right now
Right.
in the neighborhood of getting people in off the streets into shelter. They have a really good success rate, so I'd be really happy if their response teams coordinated with Battery Park City for a more holistic vision, east to west, south of Chambers.
Right, and that's what we're looking forward to. Obviously, there's certain people like the young gentleman that used to deliver groceries or whatever else. He was homeless at the time. He's not around anymore, but you know, when they're not around, I make the assumption that they finally have been placed someplace. But when you're dealing with people that are alcoholics and have drug issues, they're usually the people with drug issues. I'm masking it with alcohol. We're only seeing, what we're seeing more of is people shooting up with the needles. That's what we're dealing with right now.
I think there's a clinic that's not far from here that we should talk to the first precinct about, to send people there,
Okay,
if there is one in Florida.
okay.
And then my last question for you, and I appreciate you coming, so thank you very, very much as always, is it's out of your jurisdiction because you're out of the parks, but how can we work together to partner to have NYPD do more sweeps for the streets? Because River Terrace and South End Avenue have been a mess, and North End Avenue. It is nigh impossible to cross the street between double parked trucks, cars, and deliveries. It's been challenging. Now, through the holidays, it was a little bit better because there weren't quite as many people around. But this week in the neighborhood, especially in Battery Park City, there were triple parked on South End Avenue between Liberty and Albany, triple parked. There's now a permanent double parked Amazon truck because they can't get in because the bike rack is there now. So they've literally put their own cones out. in the streets.
They do to protect their truck.
I get that, and their workers should not be in jeopardy, but I need somehow some better, it shouldn't fall on the people who live here to constantly dial 911 when it's not a 911. So I just need, if you don't mind, and your team develops a greater dialogue with the first precinct, because again, down North End Avenue, there were double parked trucks all the way from Brookfield out down, one parked on the sidewalk of the Irish Hunger Memorial, and then double parked in the bus stop the entire way. Yes, I filed 311 complaints. And yes, within 20 minutes, my complaint was closed. As I'm sitting there and nobody has shown up.
Okay, well, what I can say, because I go to their meetings, okay, they're open meetings. The first precinct has been very tied up with, I don't know if you realize how many protests
Yes.
have been going around. There was even a protest today where they were heading towards Battery Park City. They have everybody out working those protests. I went to ask them if they could check on some statistic for me, and it was like, Pat, we're out in the field, there's nobody in to do it. Pretty much, I'll get back to you after the new year, okay? That's what's going on. Thankfully, I'm going to say this in that a whole group had bought tickets to go out to the Statue of Liberty when they got out there. They put on their traditional clothing, took photos, got on a boat, back on the boat, came back as a protest group, Battery Park City, and into historic Battery Park, and thankfully headed up towards Church Street. And I was like, we just missed a close call there. I was thinking because of maybe the construction wall. Otherwise than that, they would have been down our way. So, like I said, there's almost a protest every day down here, especially now at Wall Street. And they seem to march, then go over to the Brooklyn Bridge and march across the Brooklyn Bridge. There was a protest a couple of days ago where they were over towards the West Side Highway. So they're picking and choosing places, but a lot of it's been happening right down here, and that's where they've all been tied up, the police department with. So I think they thought it would slow down a little after the new year, but it doesn't seem to be happening. All right, but what I found is calling directly to the traffic people. They usually put it to a dispatcher. They have to write a book. There's no quota, but they gotta write a book a day.
Share the traffic, share that phone number with us, because I'm really vested in getting it shared with Betty's building in the north and other people who live on South End Avenue, because it's gotten to a level that's it's just not safe.
It is, it's dangerous.
It's dangerous. I mean, I watch people almost getting hit trying to get off the bus.
And children.
Right.
We have a lot of kids.
Oh, yeah, I know you have a lot of kids.
We have a lot of kids.
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome.
Justine, I have one question for you. As Zach left the vote sheet up, are you doing any type of a resolution tonight on Ridges 6 and 7? Or will you save that for a dialogue, a follow-up dialogue next month?
I was going to save it for a follow-up dialogue next month, or if not next month, because we're doing finances the month after. But I talked to Alice. You're shaking your head. You want to do it faster. I spoke to Alice, and we kind of agreed, and I'm open to suggestions on it, that the Environmental Protection Committee should be doing the resolutions on resiliency. But I'm happy to do discussions.
You need to get notes together.
Yeah.
And come to the next meeting, because Regis 6 and 7 will not be presented again as far as I'm aware, that I've been told. So This meeting will be shared with the EPC, but thoughts, comments, feedback, all need, however, we need to gather it, needs to be garnered. And the public, like Michelle Ashkin, who is here, needs to send her
Need to have a
comments.
place to comment, yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
I totally agree, and I apologize, but in this meeting today, we wanted to hear from the ferry folks. It took a really long time to set that up. They only could start at 6 p.m. And the other folks, the Battery Park City Authority folks had a hard stop around 8, and they ended up staying 40 minutes after. So, I think we just need to, if we do this again, Jeff, remind me of this when we have them back again. We need to focus on one topic really, because it's too much for a full meeting. Resiliency in and of itself, and going through this all. This was the first time we went space by space on 6 and 7, and we still rushed, which is crazy. So
This is the first design presentation that has been done at Community Board
You're
1 since the conceptual things. There was nothing in 2023. The environmental impact, the environmental review was done here, but we haven't seen anything for design. So I was thrilled that they were here. It was a really great presentation. I can't wait to have it shared with many.
thank you. Thank you for that. And no, I agree. And Nick is an attendee, and I'd like to have him moved over to a presenter.
Oh, Mr. Scordone, of course he should be a panelist.
He should be. Yes, thank you, panelists.
Oh.
Thanks, Nick. And yes, I agree, Nick. If you are willing to see what you can do to have a comeback to talk about it, because I thought this was a really great, productive meeting about resiliency on 6 and 7, and there's still more to go. So I think the dialogue should keep going. And we need to do one, I think, focused only on Reach 5. But that's me. So if we could do that, that would be helpful. Nick, wait,
Nice hotel room, Nick.
but he's got, I think he got disconnected. So look in, you better call her, honey. Look and see if he's back on again. Because I know he is in, gosh, where is he? Arizona, someplace. He's on his military duty. So,
Wisconsin, I believe.
Wisconsin, thank you. But he's coming on and off.
I moved him up. I don't know where he
Yeah, no, I think he got bumped, not by us, but he was up. He said he is juggling things. So, as we're texting, so let's just see.
Can we do the item 6 then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't even see him.
I don't see him anymore, so he may not be able to come back on. And if that's the case, I think that's fair. The only thing I want to say before you, and Jeff, I would love it if you talked about item 6, because I am just done with my voice. But the only thing I want to say about Battery Park City is that, as people who live in the South neighborhood know, the elevator on the West Thames Bridge is still out of service. There are signs on bottom and top. They apparently are still waiting for parts, or a part, and it is just not coming. And Nick is back, so move him over again, Tammy. But
Yes, ma'am.
thank you, sorry.
Mr. Scordone, you are a panelist once more.
Just have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You can.
Good. I'm sorry I'm having problems with the video, but thanks everyone for having us. And Justine, thank you, and Jeff as well. Tammy and the team, I really did enjoy the conversation on 6 and 7, and I'm glad we were able to do this, even as we had said before, if we do it maybe across different committees, that helps us kind of get it done in a more efficient manner. And we're going to be back, I think, to EPC in the coming months as well on some outstanding reaches. So thank you for that, and I'll be very brief. And also, thank you for the suggestion some months ago. I think it was Tammy about the downtown lines when we spoke. As Pat had noted, we've been plugged in with their great team, Ed Drivick over there, and the folks at the Alliance on their monthly check-ins, and it's really been a fantastic resource to have brought to bear. So thank you for that. I'll be very brief. You had the Pat comments, and my prepared report is, again, as I said, encountering some technical difficulties, so I'll have it posted. But the things I did want to touch on certainly were the winter events calendar, which is, as you all know, is out, chock full of events from now through April, including a poetry event on January 10th at Six River Terrace, the annual art exhibition, which we all know happens at the end of January through February in terms of events. Resiliency, we covered the South project and the Northwest tonight. We also talked about, obviously, the Battery Park City Ferry Terminal. Justine got into it right before I was able to figure out how to get back on the call. But as a community notice, yes, the West Thames elevator is unfortunately temporarily out of service. We are responsible for working to maintain it, but we don't actually have all the parts. The parts are on order. The notice is out to the community, but as soon as that is fixed, we will have it out publicly via our socials and also with a direct note to the community board, if you wouldn't mind sharing it through yours. And the only other thing I would add is obviously the news over the past month was we have a new president and CEO, Raju Mann, who's wonderful. You've all seen his background and the announcement. He comes with a really strong public planning and public policy background, and we look real forward to getting him out to meet a lot of you soon, either at these meetings or at different Battery Park City events, or any combination of the two. The last thing I would note very briefly now, because I know it's getting late, is the community center at Stuyvesant High School is obviously into its winter season as well. As a community note there, it's a little bit of a bummer, but due to some issues with the lighting above the pool, that the Stuyvesant High School administration is working very diligently to get fixed. The pool hours are going to be shortened for the next little bit, because once it gets dark outside, the pool is insufficiently lit to have swimming beyond 5 p.m. because the days are shorter and the lighting is insufficient. However, all the members have been notified, and we will continue to work with our partners at Stuyvesant High School to push them as far as they can push Central DOE to try to get the issue fixed as expeditiously as possible. So a couple of good news pieces, a couple of bummers, but nonetheless, I wanted to make sure I called in and let you all know, and I look forward again to seeing you all in person next month.
So much, Nick. Thanks for calling in.
Sure.
And
Thank you,
Patrick,
guys.
thank you. Yeah, I didn't know if I said thank you before you left. I can't see if you're still there, but thank you.
Okay.
And Nick, thank you for saying that we can do more reaches, because I think, once again, the more you come and do it before the community board, we get a chance to ask questions in a way, and even then we rush it, but it just is so helpful. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I thought it turned out pretty good. I mean, even with the stop, I think we still ended up having about an hour and 40-minute conversation tonight, which actually went fast because there was a lot to it, but
Yep.
it was a pretty good length. And as I had said, I think to Tammy and to Alice and to you all, we are in a kind of a good window now between the start of the year and, let's say, the spring, where we kind of get into the next phase of the EIS and the next phase of the design. We really want to make sure we are taking what we've heard, kind of consolidating that feedback and making sure it's incorporated in the best ways possible, and having the public and the community board have an opportunity to kind of weigh in on that in advance of the movement to the 60% design. So this is a
Be
really
wonderful,
good
Nick.
window and a good couple of months to make sure that we are having those touch points with the community in a meaningful way.
It would be really helpful, and if we just coordinate to do it with Battery Park City Committee and then the EP Environmental Committee, because I think that it's important and impactful for the community board to have a say in what's or a voice in what's going on and present here, because you're reaching different people.
Right.
And so I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all.
Okay, I think that's done. And then Jeff, you can take us home with this report.
Everybody's getting ready to leave.
I know.
I'll just give a brief report. Justine, Tammy, and I can't recall if Alice and Wendy were there as well, but they may have been. Had a Zoom meeting in December with the authority regarding plans for the pavilion in Wagner Park that's going to be built there. As they presented at this committee back in November or October timeframe. And as they indicated then, they had issued RFEI, request for expressions of interest, They got one response, which we reviewed at the December meeting. And this is not like an RFP. I mean, this is basically show us your ideas of how to use the space, kind of thing. And not surprisingly, they showed how to use the space as a restaurant space. That's the portion of the pavilion that will be a restaurant. There were actually some interesting ideas in terms of sort of the framework of how we'd like to evaluate the actual vendors when they respond to an RFP. The RFP itself will be going out in February as the target. But among the things that were highlighted in our discussion is a recommendation that the restaurant be open for all day food service. There'd be, breakfast and or, morning coffee or whatnot. Somebody could drop by for coffee or breakfast before work. A full lunch menu. Question whether it would be a full evening menu or only just sort of a snack evening menu. Those are the kinds of things that we need to kind of weigh in on, or will need to weigh in on with a new vendor. Personally, I like the all-day food idea. It would be nice that if you had a walk-up counter that you could get a cup of coffee down there. It certainly would be nice to have it open for lunch. Old Gigino's was certainly open for lunch. Gigino's was also open for dinner, however, and I think the community would appreciate that. It's important that it serves different price points so that you don't have to pay $100 to walk in the door for anything that you're going to be eating there. But at the same time, I think we do want a decent restaurant, not a fast food place. There were ideas about having counter service as well as sit-down menu waiter service. I think that's a good idea as well. We'll want to be, I think we'll want to see public seating that's not exclusive to the restaurant, as well as possibly public seating that is exclusive. So if you go to the restaurant, you want to sit outside, you can sit outside.
Who was the vendor?
I don't know if we can disclose the actual respondent, but this is not necessarily.
It's no vendor, Sarah, at this point.
Yeah, there's nothing that's finalized yet. And part of the agreement is that we bring what the public is looking for needs. We are not prescriptive to who they
decide on.
Decide on. So they are doing the final decision. That was part of the conversation where Nick, I believe, had said, you can't be on the inside of the RFP process, but you can help advise on the needs of the community. So that's where our role is currently. If that changes, we can, but even if it did, much like, for example, I know a board chair who had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to go in and look at an agreement that EDC was doing with who was operating the pier. And that was okay, but I mean, like, you have to see this phone outside, and he was allowed a pad of paper and a pen. If that's the way the BPCA goes, we will honor that, which means that no matter who is in the room with the NDA, the information does not come out. Our role here is to gather the community feedback and ensure that we have a really open and good dialogue with the Battery Park City Authority, so we don't end up with something that doesn't serve all needs of our community.
Right, and I think the sense, and I think Tammy, you'll probably agree with this, the sense I had from the meeting is that we're all kind of on the same page. You need this restaurant to be successful, otherwise it's not going to
useful. Yeah.
Useful. But this is not a revenue maximization exercise on the part of the authority. It's, what can be most successful and make Wagner Park a nice place that residents and visitors enjoy. And so I think we're going in with kind of a healthy perspective. It may be a challenge to find an operator who can be successful in that space, but that's the objective.
No, that was a great summary. Thank you, Jeff. And that's about it right now, and we'll keep you updated as to what comes next, if anything. And before we close out, I want to thank everybody on the committee who made sure to show up in person, so we made quorum. I really appreciate it. I know, Eric, you came earlier than you had to, and Jimmy, you came in person. I so appreciate it. Thank you for stepping up while Marianne and I are out sick.
Feel better, Justine.
Thank you. You too. I thank you all.
Justine, feel better.
Thank you. Take care, everybody, okay? And we can close out this meeting. Thank you so much.